This week's guest is presented to you by Bertarelli Cutlery. Marco Bertarelli at Bertarelli Cutlery has been in the knife sharpening business for decades. It's a family-owned business straight from the mother country of Italy. Marco is a dear friend, and they've been a partner with Illinois Recovery Center and offering second chance jobs for folks that are leaving treatment and looking for work. Please check them out at bertarellico.com. That's bertarellico.com. And you can always find them in their retail store at 1927 Marconi Avenue on the Hill in St. Louis, Missouri. bertarellicutlery.com.
I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to. React if you have to, Don't know the time, just know that I'm, one of a kind, What's on your mind, What hard to find, Beautiful mind, Still in my prime, Just know that I'm.
PONDOFF'S Anonymous, episode 11.
I think it's 12. It's 11.
It's 11. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear him?
No. Can we turn him up a little bit? You are, let me see. Jacob, you are number 4. Yeah.
We're professionals.
Is this better?
Much
better.
Is that too loud or is that
I can
good?
hear you.
I love it.
All right, start over, Chris.
No, we're just rolling.
From the top.
Fuck that. This is how we go, baby.
Turn line 5 up a little bit, too.
Take 2. It says
Just a little bit, yeah. A little bit. There you go. That's probably fine.
There we go.
PONDOFF'S Anonymous. Here we are. Episode 11. We've established that while we were finger fucking each other under the table with our microphones. And it's not Natalie Williams. She's going to have to come back. Childcare. We have our esteemed colleague,
Sounds good.
brother, and I just needed a validation.
Yes, I do get it for it. We call him that.
Brother in recovery, Alex.
Welcome, Alex.
What's going on, man? I'm
Can
glad
we
to
share
be
your
here.
last name?
Absolutely, yeah.
Alex
Kaiser.
Like Kaiser Electric.
Yep, just like it. Kaiser Permanente, Kaiser Rolls.
Kaiser, is that Permanente? Is that the hospital?
Yeah,
Yeah, in L.A. My wife's best friend works there.
yeah. No relation that I know of.
They're
Or at least they haven't told me.
Why does it sound like
nice.
a villain's name to me?
Kaiser.
Because Kaiser Wilhelm.
Kaiser Soze.
You know? Yeah, Kaiser Soze. I get that one a lot, too. Like, that one, I get that one a lot.
That's a great movie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
God, Kevin
Yeah.
Spacey turned out to be a fucking creep. I loved him as an actor. He's doubled down in now on his creepness.
What was
I
that
think.
one movie that he was in?
That one.
American Beauty? Was he
That's
in that?
great.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
movie.
I've never actually seen that movie.
Oh,
Go back and watch it.
They
Classic.
talked about that on the Tim Dillon the Matt and Shane Secret podcast recently, and I was like, I've never seen that movie.
That's the
before.
podcast you listen to.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
We were before we went live, if that's what we call this. We were talking podcast, and I said, "Shut the fuck up! I want to talk about this on the show." And Jacob yelled at me that we're not allowed to talk about other podcasts on our own podcast.
I don't think that's what I said.
But Alex has a
I don't
podcast.
think that's what you said.
That's not what I said, but
I misquoted.
yeah. We'll just go with it, Chris.
Alex, you have a podcast.
I do have a podcast. Yes, No Lions Here. It's available on all streaming services, Spotify,
Awesome.
iTunes, YouTube. Yeah, across the board.
And
Yeah.
what do you talk about?
So it is my journey of recovery from sexual addiction.
Okay.
I am a recovering sex addict,
Awesome.
and
Well,
so I'm
I
also
don't-
so
Great. Awesome that you're recovering.
That's too bad.
Well, it got me. It led me to where I'm at today, right?
Sure.
I'm a peer specialist here at Illinois Recovery Center, right? A recovery coach, working a program, and yeah. So I just, there's not a whole lot of, even in the recovery industry, you don't hear a lot about sex addiction.
This is I was saying
No,
this
you're
before.
right.
This is even the first year back in 2020 when Jeff and I did this, we had people come on with different stuff, and then starting this up. This is the first one, and I didn't even really know when Jacob said Alex can join us. I didn't know your whole story. I knew there was a fringe of that from what we've talked about, but I didn't know that you lead primary sex addict.
That's the 12 steps that I work. It's
awesome.
It's a Sexual Compulsives Anonymous. I've also worked in SAA, Sex Addicts Anonymous.
So SCA?
SCA.
So that's Sexual Compulsive Anonymous.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
then what's the other one?
SAA.
Okay.
Which is Sex Addicts Anonymous. There's also SA, Sexaholics Anonymous.
Wow.
There's SLAA, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. There's also an SPLA, Sex and Porn Addicts Anonymous.
Sex and love addicts.
Yes.
What's the difference there?
So, like the love addiction, you could one who's in recovery for sexual addiction, you can say that you're also a love addict too, right? So, love addiction looks like, say, I meet somebody. And I immediately start like fantasizing what a life looks like together.
Oh, weird.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay,
so,
that's
like,
rude to me to say because it's an actual addiction, but it comes off weird, right?
I mean,
You know what I mean?
and we all kind of, we all
Yeah.
kind of have a tinge
Yeah.
of that, right? And,
Not
or
to be
it's,
overly judgmental right out of the gate.
And you're the fucking liberal.
I know, right? This was a nice
How
one.
about that?
Well, wait a minute. So is it like bad attachment style kind of stuff, or is it?
attachment styles, again, fantasizing, romanticizing about the relationship, right? Like, I get way in too deep
Understood.
before I even know if we're even going to work out or not.
Okay, all right.
Like, I fantasize, and so what I do is I meet somebody and I fantasize what a life would look like for them, but like, I don't know how to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, and you need that in a relationship, right? You need that
100%.
emotional intimacy piece of a relationship. Well, as a sex addict, I was too afraid to be that vulnerable. I was so afraid, and I think that a lot of us in recovery can relate to whatever your addiction is you won't understand what I've been through, what I deal with, some of the things I've done, and if I tell you, you're going to run away from me.
Right.
So therefore, I'm just not going to, my whole experience was I'm going to keep you at arm's length. I really want the intimacy. I crave the intimacy, but I don't know how to do that. So what do is I short circuit it, and I could just go straight to sex.
Got it.
Right? Sex, the addiction of sex, it's not actually about the sex, right? We talk a lot about, Jakob shares the dopamine, right? Sex is one of the larger dopamine hits that the body can get naturally. So it's like, it's a way for me to numb. It's a way for me to escape. It's also a way to validate, right? I got this tape in my head that says, Alex, you're not good enough, right? You're a piece of shit. You're not good enough. Well, if I can get somebody to agree to sleep with me,
Sure.
that validates,
Yeah.
oh, wow, I'm good enough. Or like wanting to be seen and heard. Again, I didn't know how to do that in an authentic way. So therefore, okay, if you're willing to have sex with me, then you're seeing me.
Sure, that makes sense.
And so that's kind of where it comes from. But then as soon as the sex is over, I feel shame, I feel guilt, and I want to run away.
God, we dove right in. I got so
Right.
many questions and
Yeah.
a lot to unpack. I appreciate it. This is
Yeah,
great.
man. No, this is part of the journey for me, right? I believe that God has put a calling on my life and has given me the gift of, hey, you know what? Like, and you guys too, right? Like, putting your stories out there, right? Not everybody's going to want to do that in recovery.
Right.
But if I can be the voice for somebody that's too afraid to speak up, but hearing my story is going to help them get help, then so be it. I'll put my name out there. I'll put my face out there.
I know that feeling.
I'll put my story out there. Like, I have no problem. Again, I believe
Fucking
God's
juice
given me
is
a
worth
gift.
the squeeze.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
100%.
I really admire, because and making assumptions here, because I maybe at the end of this I might say I fucking am a sex addict, but I don't know. I don't think I am. I mean, but to go back to one of your earlier points about feeling, there's got to be some shame. Like, is there even more there, because there's so much shame around sex, I think, starting at a very fucking young age. So, fucking bravo, man. Like, to be outward with it and talk about it, because there's got to be a lot of fucking people suffering in silence with this shit.
Oh,
Even more almost than there's shame in being an alcoholic.
It seems similar to being an alcoholic to me, because it's one of those things that, like, you get high fives for guzzling like a case of beer,
right.
and you get high fives for scoring like
Or running a
bunch
train
of
at
chicks.
fucking Larry Flint's.
Yeah. So
like 100%, and it's very normalized in our society.
Well, at least for guys.
Like,
Right,
I'm
yeah.
a guy, like, I'm supposed to look at porn,
Yeah.
right? I'm a guy, I lust after strangers, right? I go out with my group of my friends, and what do we do the whole time is we objectify women.
right.
And it's like, it's so normalized, right? In a locker room,
shit.
like porn's getting passed around a locker room,
Right.
right? And it's like, hold on, but why is this normalized though? Like, because again, maybe some
scumbags.
people can, hey, look at porn and that's fine. I, however, cannot do that, right? I can't objectify women. If I do that out loud, I'm going to take that with me.
So is this part of your recovery then? You like don't look at porn, nothing. And okay.
So the
That's
thing
your
about
abstinence.
yes. So in the thing with sexual recovery is like with the help of my sponsor, I define my sobriety. So for me, it's porn, masturbation, sex outside of a committed relationship, strip clubs. There's certain apps and websites that if I go into those things, if I do those things, that is a sexual relapse. For
Okay,
me.
yeah, that's what the word that was
me.
coming to mind.
Yes.
Yeah, and to Jacob, it says this often. Would say every episode, but almost everyone, and I really like it. Believe it or not, he said something like that. Is the relapse is not working your program and falling into that trap. And once you fucking look at porn or go to Larry Flint's, you're back in active sexual addiction. Is that? Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, right?
Sure.
And like Jacob says too, like I mean, it starts before that.
Yeah, right.
Like,
exactly.
I tell my sponsor, like, I was talking to my sponsor recently, and like the term that I like to use is like, when I'm starting to get squirrely, I want to get lost and fuck, and that is the hunt for it, the chase for it.
Sure.
It's almost like once the act of it actually happens, I'm done. It's everything that leads up to it, right? It's the downloading of the app, it's the exchanging pictures, it's looking through all the porn, which video is the best, like that is all a part of the addiction. It's all a part of it, and it's all up in my head. Like I'm a cocaine addict as well. I also qualify as an alcoholic. Been clean, sober for 3.5 years from cocaine and alcohol, and those I don't even know where to. Thank you, I appreciate that. Like I don't even know where to get cocaine right now. I have no idea, right? Like I have no idea where I can go get it, but I have to go and get it. Whereas with sex and porn, I mean,
it's just there in
it's
your
right
pocket.
here.
Yeah,
It's right here. It's in my head, right? Euphoric recall, thinking about old partners and things like that. It's literally,
Boy, that's
it's all between the head.
yeah.
Let's start at the beginning, Alex.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up. I'm from Collinsville, Illinois.
Fuck, I forgot about that. I was going to try to shield. Let's edit that out. We don't want anybody from here from Collinsville. I'm kidding. Fucking ketchup bottle. Horseradish capital of the world.
Two-thirds of the world's horseradish.
That's right. I love it. I actually like Collinsville. I bartended in Collinsville. My last bartending job when the tavern Fridays I grew up at. You had lunch.
Yeah,
at
had
the
lunch
Belleville
on Fridays
one.
today. Yeah,
Yeah,
almost
Fridays. We got what? Fridays South.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're both Fridays South. It was a name change situation. So,
Well, I almost told him to put my meal on your tab. So
shit. So I was the first daytime bartender when they opened the Friday South in Collinsville, and yeah, I was active, blowing booze, and definitely not having very healthy sexual relationships. So this might be I'm doing a lot of self-inventory probably through this episode. But yeah, so grew up in Collinsville, big hockey fan. I know that.
Big hockey. I actually didn't get into hockey until later on in life.
Yeah, you
though.
said that. You said that.
I played baseball and basketball throughout high school. Played baseball in college for a year.
Okay.
And then when I stopped, that's when I got picked up hockey.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm addicted.
And, yeah.
I'm sucked in. Let's
Real
go.
life. Real
Let's go.
dance
And I'm not. So I grew up. I'm the second oldest of 5 boys.
Okay.
So like, I'm not surprised
You're
that my
poor.
parents didn't push hockey on
Well,
us.
that's expensive, baby.
Right. We were the cheap sports.
5 boys playing hockey. That'll bankrupt.
Oh, jeez, that
couple
was.
times
So I grew up. I did some traveling growing up. I lived in England for a little bit. My dad
Nice.
was ex-Air Force. He was stationed at Scott.
Good
we
day,
spent
mate.
some
No,
time
wait,
at-
that's Australia.
That's Australia.
Sorry. That's not even close. Well, Ashley says my accents are fucking horrible.
Yeah,
when
I'll
Ashley does
listen
have
to her.
one too many libations, she'll start talking British, and then
I need to be around her for that.
and then when she starts talking British, I'm like, okay, the window is open. Not to glorify sex here,
With your wife, it's okay. I think.
I think, but I don't know. We'll find out. But
We'll get into it.
yeah,
We'll get into it.
I got some
Yeah, we'll get
questions.
into it. I got some questions for
She
you.
might have some
I
questions
hope
for you
it's
I
like
too.
got some
Sex with your
questions for
wife.
you around this. Yeah.
She
I'm doing the asking now.
wait. I'll come on your podcast for the hot seat.
Absolutely.
The window does close very quickly, though. So, but yeah, she'll start doing a British accent. She was a pretty good one. So where at in England?
So we grew up kind of like in the Cambridge area.
Okay.
My dad was stationed at RAF Mildenhall. So I was born there in '88. We came back, and then we went
shit.
back in '95.
You dual citizen?
No, because I was technically born on U.S. soil. I actually looked into it recently to see if I could get a dual citizenship, and
Yeah,
I
you might
couldn't.
want to get out of here.
No, he's a citizen here. Here we go.
I understand.
I got to figure out my own shit first before I plan on moving anywhere. I got to take care of myself first and foremost.
Did you ever turn into a soccer hooligan over there?
No.
Or wait,
I'm
football?
not a big
Football.
soccer fan.
Love me some soccer.
Not a big soccer fan at all. What did we do? I mean, fish and chips.
Yeah, their
But,
food
like,
sucks. It's the worst food.
It's like, nah, it wasn't great.
You eat like fucking pork beans for breakfast.
It's like
Shepherd's
like
toast.
their
Yeah.
stuff was just
Seriously, I was eating that at rock bottom because it's all I literally had for food in my house was a loaf of white bread and a can of pork and beans.
You didn't get the Heinz?
I didn't go to a restaurant and order it.
Our favorite place to eat was Burger King on base
Nice,
and Popeyes.
nice.
Yeah, those were our favorite
Right.
places to
The
eat.
American
Yeah.
shit.
When
Yeah,
I went there, I was there
exactly.
for 10 days one time, and I ate British food every morning for breakfast because it was free in the hotel.
Right.
But then by the, like, I don't know, 8th or 9th day, I was going to McDonald's. I'm like,
Nice.
got to get some real food.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well,
McDonald's food real.
it's funny. So like we would go into London. London was about 3 hours from us, and we'd go into London. And our favorite place to eat in London was the Texas Embassy and Cantina,
Oh, nice.
so that I could get chicken strips.
There you go.
You know,
Tendies,
chicken
baby.
strips and fries. Like that was like
Yeah.
that's where we wanted to go when we went to London.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think of Premier League and which I did get into in recovery. I would go to because I'd get up on Saturday mornings. There were Premier League games at 6 a.m. and I was out drinking coffee and I'm like, I got to fucking find a team, and so I became a Tottenham fan.
Tottenham Hotspurs? Hell yeah. Me
because
too.
my cousins were Tottenham fans and they had Harry Kane and now he's
Yeah.
gone, but.
Harry Kane.
Yeah, now they got the city. That's one thing that the fucking city of St. Louis did right was that soccer park.
Yes.
It was
Beautiful.
Yeah.
amazing stadium.
It is. I
All the
really
local
want to go
food.
watch a game.
Yeah,
You need
it
to.
is fun.
I'm not into soccer, but
I
like,
can't get
I
down with
just
the
wanna go
fucking
watch
flopping
watch it.
bitches like that. I mean, being a hockey player,
Being a hockey guy,
you
yeah.
I can't fucking stand
Yeah.
it.
Although I will say this, I thought that for a long time, and then I thought, well, what if I ran full fucking speed and fell down? That would hurt. Just saying.
No, yeah, it's not.
would hurt.
They're still pussies. I can't handle it. But I will
And I
go
can't
to.
even run that
I will go to City Park. O&O has burgers there.
Oh yeah.
And like they do all the local food. Balkan Treat Box, shout out.
That's the best, yeah.
They got a place, farm truck, which
Steve's
is
Hot
my girl
Dogs.
Samantha. She's a badass. So they did that fucking right, and that is a fun time to go live.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, it. I'd rather watch fucking Warmies at a Blues game than go to a soccer game.
Yeah, I'm not going to turn on a soccer game
But
on
good,
the afternoon.
You
but
know
I'll
who
go to a game.
finished his career in London was Cam Jansen.
Did he really?
Yeah, he finished he had a year in London, and he was a fucking local celebrity because he was just a shit kicker. And they loved it. Yeah.
Do they have hockey hooligans there?
He said these guys would just get fucking wasted, and they'd fill the arena, and he would just
believe
whoop ass, and they loved it.
Believe it.
I think he was in, is it Nottingham? I think,
Yeah.
is that a name of that?
Nottingham
sounds,
Forest?
That sounds a little, that's the sheriff of Nottingham, so maybe not.
Yeah.
No, Nottingham Forest is a
These are
soccer
real
team.
plays. Yeah.
No,
I
is
could
that-
get into the London shit. Did you do all the castles and stuff?
Oh, we did. We did all the
That's pretty-
castles.
how was it?
We did.
Pretty
It was
cool?
it was really cool. Like my parents definitely made sure that we
Sure.
had the English. I took wriding lessons for 2 years.
Any golf?
No golf while I was there. I do play golf now, but no golf over there.
That would be, a buddy of mine takes a trip every year to play the British Open courses.
St. Andrews.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. To
I
go.
mean,
Yeah,
he's a
no, we were
fucking
too
scratch
young then.
golfer. I don't know if my 19 handicap needs to go playing St. Andrews, but I mean, I would love to go there and play some golf.
Yeah,
all
we
throughout
did.
there.
I went to British schools
Nice.
for a while there.
You got do the accent.
My accent is actually it's more Australian.
That like I did.
Like
All right.
it's more Australian than it
Nice.
is when I was living there. Don't get me wrong, dude. It was spot on, you know. Like, but then I tried to do it a few years back, and it just kind of came out Australian. So I just kind of ran with it.
You mentioned earlier that you grew up real religious.
Real religious.
It started over there.
It started me before that. Before we were over there, and then when we were over there, when we came back, I mean, it was in the church. My dad was a praise and worship leader. My mom, they were elders in the church.
What
you know,
denomination?
non-denominational, spirit filled. speaking in tongues.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking snakes and shit.
No snakes. No, not there. We weren't that south yet. But yeah, it was, and it was, you know, it was really confusing, right? Because you talk about spiritual abuse.
Yeah.
And
we have wellness groups at the gathering for people that have been,
you know,
it's,
and then on top of it, you know, it's really confusing because, you know, part of my story is, you know, there was sexual abuse in the home. So, you know, here you are going to church with these people and these people telling you like, oh, wow, your parents are awesome. I can't believe you get to have your parents. But then at home,
oh, fuck,
you know, there was sexual abuse. And it's like just so confusing, right? And you want to talk about the topic of sex growing up and, you know, growing up in the church, right? The message around sex is bad.
You get a lot of that.
Until you get married.
Right.
Right.
Well, here I am now. And even up until getting into recovery back in 2021, it was like, well, I'm a sex addict. I'm not married. I must be fucking bad then. I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, it definitely...
Yeah, imagine if you're gay or something. They fucking brutalize you with that shit. Inherently. I have heard thousands of those stories. And you just grow up with so much fucking shame. And here you are, addicted to the thing that you're fucking...
That is bad. That is bad, right? And even more so, like, the sin's not talked about, right? Like, they say everything's a sin, right? It was all fire and brimstone, right? You sin, you go to hell. We're not going to talk about the severity of the sin, right? Because sex before marriage is just as sinful as murder.
Right.
And it's like,
fuck this church,
it's like,
man.
What the, like, this is so confusing.
You still in this church?
Oh, no, no, and neither are my parents. Like, my parents got out, and you know, it's one of those things where, like, because I remember I went from private school in 6th grade to
over there or here?
School here.
Okay.
Here, I went from private school, Collinsville Christian Academy in Collinsville.
Oh wow, yeah.
Went there, and then then went to public school in 6th grade, and it's like, you know, we hear all these things that we're not supposed to be doing, but yet you go to public school and you literally see kids doing the things that I'm told I'm going to go to hell for, but yet they're not burning up on the spot, and they seem like they're having fun. So again, talk about confusion. I'm going, well, these guys are doing it, and they're having a good time. I want to explore my life. I want to explore. I want to cuss, right? I want to find girls.
A hustler in the locker, yeah.
Yeah, you know, exactly. Like, so it's just a lot of mixed signals, a lot of mixed messaging growing up. You know, seeing one thing and then having to adhere to another thing at home.
You keep saying confusing. Like, as a parent to the 11-year-old, and it's hard enough. I can imagine just fucking confusing the shit out of them. And now my wife's a bleeding heart liberal, so she's probably confusing them a little bit. Jacob, I'm just fucking kidding. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding. No divisiveness.
And you know, I don't blame my parents for what happened to me, because I realized a couple years ago, having a conversation with my mom, she was just as abused in the church as I was. She did not know that what what the church was teaching her was spiritual abuse, right? She was just going off what the church is telling her to do, how to raise her kids, right? The good and the bad. Well, she didn't know because she doesn't come from religion. They just kind of got into it, and having a conversation with her, it really kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, you're kind of just as much a victim of spiritual abuse as I am. So, okay, all right, I see that, you know?
And I am not a journalist. I don't play one on TV. So I've never studied how to ask questions. We just do this podcast. So if I ask something, we both just apologies in advance, and we'll move on. But was the abuse was in the home, you said?
The abuse was in the home, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And was the church involved in that?
No, church wasn't involved in that. The church wasn't. It was family members. And, you know, I remember it got brought to light. I had caught a family member abusing my little brother. And then what happened was I actually...
Can I ask your age when...
I was 8 years old.
Fuck, man.
I was 8 years old. And, you know, and this is kind of... I've carried a lot of guilt and shame over this, about this for a very long time, is like, I then took those behaviors. I caught this family member. I said, what's going on? They said, don't worry about it. You know, nothing was talked about. And then what I did was I took these behaviors and I mirrored them onto my little brothers, right? And I've carried a lot of guilt and shame around that for a very long time. Now I realize I was a child. I really didn't know what I was doing. I've had those conversations with my brothers, apologizing for those things, and we're fine. Until one day I got caught by my mom with my little brothers, and I remember saying, "Well, I saw so and so do it," as in like, why am I getting in trouble? I literally saw this person doing it. Why am I getting in trouble? And then that kind of got swept under the rug. It was never talked about. Never talked about until like in that moment in the therapy that I've done.
Right. That's
You know,
like, the word therapist is just
Right.
I hope Alex says talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And it's just the red lights
I've
are
done a
for
lot,
you. Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
sure.
work around this stuff. And you know, that kind of taught me like almost that like I couldn't be seen and heard.
Sure. Yeah, that's like we get focused on the like the horror of the actual physical abuse, and a lot of times are all the, forget what's actually happening is so fucking problematic because it's like it normalizes, so you're just doing what you were taught was normal, and then shut it up and didn't happen, and
Yeah.
now you're not seen and heard. That's fucked up, man.
And you know, and like another kind of fucked up thing that kind of came from that was like when I saw what was happening, I almost like in my brain equated what I saw with love and special time. So here I am 8 years old seeing this and going, oh, well, I want special time. I want love, right? I want connection. That's what every little kid, human being wants. And so in my mind, when I was, mirroring these behaviors with my little brothers, it was like my way of showing love almost. Right. And again, there's some exploration in all of that too. And in all of our addictions, there's exploration.
Sure,
right? We're
sure.
trying to figure out who we are. Do I believe that the sexual abuse that I witnessed and then eventually had done to me, does that fully mean that, because people ask me this question all the time, like, well, did that lead to the sex addiction? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's trauma.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, I could have turned out to be a full-blown alcoholic.
There's a whole lot of ways to self-medicate from this shit.
There's a whole lot, and so what I tell them about the sex addiction is like, I mean, I'm sure we can all remember the first time we ever saw porno.
Oh yeah.
I can still remember, right? I remember we were living in England, and we were out in the woods behind the house, and we found this crumpled up piece of magazine that was a porno. And I don't even think there was any nudity in it, just like a story of this girl. And I remember like a couple days later, we crumpled it back up and threw it. And I remember a couple days later, I went back into the woods looking for this thing, right? Because my brain said, this feels good.
Yeah.
This feels good. This is what, and you talk about, I wasn't taught how to regulate my emotions, right? I'm the feeling wheel guy at the treatment center here. Like, that is my brand.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the feeling wheel guy. Let's get in touch with the feelings.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, especially being guys. And so, like, my brain
I didn't learn
was
how
like,
to do that till I got sober and in a recovery program.
Yeah.
Vulnerability. And it was hard at first, man.
Jacob still hasn't learned how to do
Right. He's a 29.
I didn't know what emotions were until I was 26 years old.
So I'm saying, like
there's more than two.
Yeah.
Still like a
Yeah.
5-year-old kid.
I didn't learn until I was 32.
But we actually hand these emotion wheels out at church for some of these wellness groups, and I'm picturing it, and it's got like the core emotions, and it fans out, and it's pretty fucking But that vulnerability, I mean, I get it. Being a guy, hockey player, and then, oh shit, I'm in rehab, and that's when I was like, fuck. But then I'm like, oh wait, I'm not alone. You did that. You felt that, and then that felt good being seen. So sorry. He hates when I say I feel seen.
That's why I said on your
are
sober birthday post.
Thank you. I know.
Chris,
I love
you
that.
are seen and you are heard.
Thank you,
man.
Alex.
You
So I
matter.
appreciate
He's making fun of you, Chris. But
I appreciate you saying that,
I think he's
and
making fun of you.
and
I'll never tell.
when we were going through our training to get a licensed foster parent, it's very. The training itself, like the hours, isn't necessarily hard, but the content in it is because you go through a ton of abuse of, different types of abuse that you could experience as a foster parent for a child coming into care. And remembering correctly, they did this exercise on putting the 4 up there. So there was sexual, there was physical, I think verbal, emotional, and I could be getting this wrong. So for the pros out there listening, I apologize. Is what I retained. And then there was negligence. Those types are the most that kids come into care for. And they did this exercise where you would rank them, like which one's worse. And most of us are like, sexual's got to be the worst. And they actually said that's not the case. It's because in sexual and physical, like there's the kids, you said this earlier, feel like there's attention and love there. As sick as that can be, that it's the kids that completely like negligent abuse, I'm trying to think of the fucking action word of that, but neglected. Thank you. Yep. Fucking wordsmith over here. The neglected child, because they feel no love, and that is oftentimes the hardest one to come back from, because if a kid's being touched or physically or sexually, they have twisted it in their head that they're seen and loved. And but to your point, that is, I remember hearing that is like you were going through, like, this person loves me. As fucked up as it is. So what that can do long term, I can't imagine.
Well, and, fast forward, it's like that's how I equated love in the relationship.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Was sex. It was purely physical, right? When you think about intimacy, the term intimacy. Now, before recovery, and now this was only 4 years ago, I went to treatment in 2021. I didn't know that. I thought intimacy was meant we're getting physical.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? I did not know that there's all these other levels of intimacy. I had no idea. I just thought intimacy, all right, we're getting naked. Let's do the deal.
Right.
And then I'm gonna, pull my pants on real quick afterwards, and
that's all you're on.
I'm gone. So intimacy, man. It's and not getting that, right? Not getting that attunement as a child, right? Not knowing what my emotions were, not feeling that I could even share my emotions, not being taught how to regulate. I'm a firm believer that that's where addiction stems from, is unregulated emotions. Unregulated emotions, uncomfortable emotions, right? So in all of my classes, I pass out the feeling wheel, right? I pass it out.
Yeah.
We go around the room and we name 3 feelings. And one of the biggest points that I try to tell everybody and the clients is, like, there's no such thing as a negative emotion. If I label my emotions as negative, I label myself negative for having them.
Okay.
Which I can do that no matter what.
Sure.
Right? I'm constantly doing that in my head. There are only uncomfortable emotions. They are uncomfortable because I don't know what to do with them, and I don't want to sit with them. They're not negative. They're just uncomfortable.
So anger, for instance.
Yeah.
Anger is not a negative emotion.
Nope.
And I agree with, definitely have heard that and try to teach it at home. It's definitely uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The fear, the sadness, right? Those are real uncomfortable. But every human being has
they're not
that.
bad.
No, they're not bad at all, right? And what I love about, focusing on the feelings is, like, I always tell people, like, that's my trailhead, right? These emotions come up because, well, I'm sober now, but hey, emotions still come up.
Sure.
The body sensations, right? Those are my trailheads. I get an opportunity to look at, okay, what's going on with me? Something's off. I'm feeling a certain type of way. Okay, now what tools do I get to apply to these? I get to figure out, okay, what's going on with me that's causing me to feel this way?
I've been struggling with disappointment. And it really came up because we actually, the church series, we do the sermon series, and it's Jesus' emotions leading up to his death and resurrection going into Easter. And this Sunday was a disappointment. And it was one of those, I wouldn't say mountaintop, but one of those sermons where I was like bent like this, like with my hands just, and like paying attention to every word. And there would be some sermons I'm fucking goofing off or annoying my wife or making sure Charlie's not being an asshole, and which, I mean, look in the mirror. But this was one of those I was like just slunched forward and like grasping every word. And afterwards we talked about it a little bit in the car. I was like, I'll talk to you later about it, Ash, because And it's like this, yeah, that, I might be fucked up right now with some disappointment. Like, which is, it felt really good to like name it because I've been struggling with this and for a while, and to be able to say that's what this is. Now what do you do about it? And but I have that. I like how you said trailhead. Like I think I know the path.
Yeah, it gives me that path.
Sure.
Right? Whereas before,
is this too much for you, Jacob? Are we getting a little too soft here? I just like to chirp you. The flannel looks good, though. Both of you guys got your flannels on today.
Yeah, I called him this morning.
Thanks for wearing Pondos Anonymous swag. Oh, you did put the hat on.
Get the hat on.
Yeah, man. Here,
I'll get you a hat.
Yeah, we got
now I'm wearing it.
There
right?
you go,
Yeah,
baby.
There we go. All right,
you need a hat.
There we go.
We got to get you a hat.
I gave him a hat.
I think I have one.
Well, the Blues are on a roll, baby. You don't
The Blues. I mean, and this is the Winter Classic hat.
That's
like those Winter Classic jerseys, I had to buy one as soon as I saw
They were
them
good.
drop.
I liked them.
They're so awesome.
And
so
we
basic.
fucking whooped that ass,
dude. And we realized we're only 20. I did the math today. We need 9 plus 16, 25 more wins, and we win the Stanley Cup.
All right, you're on it. I love it. I love it.
25
I was
more
wondering where
wins,
you're
dude.
going there. I'm like, we only
25
got
more
7
wins,
games
man.
left.
Yep, 7 games, and then the
Got it, yeah.
16.
16, there you go.
16, and you win the cup. So
There you go, baby.
and we just got to do it in a row.
And we can handle that.
I think we
You're
can.
at 8, so.
With the way we're firing right now,
And
loving it.
And Jordan's locked in with his sociopathic nature. When the more like stone cold killer, I'm convinced he has a trail of bodies in Canada, just buried somewhere. Fucking goalies are nuts. Every
Dude,
goal ever.
I'm a goalie.
Yeah, fuck, exactly.
So
Here we
I
are.
fit the stereotype.
I mean,
perfectly.
Point proven. Thesis.
Point proven.
Thesis
man.
A+.
Now I've cleaned out my closet, so the skeletons are out.
You're going to be like a screen door in a submarine now and be lighting the lamp all day. You're fucking healthy. The sicker you are, the more pucks you're going to stop.
Honestly, like I used to play games like doing key bumps in the locker room, or like some of my best games I played after coming down from a bender where I hadn't slept. I remember my last relapse was in October of 2021, and yeah, I went on a 48-hour bender that involved a transsexual prostitute.
That's a bender.
Oh,
If I've ever heard one.
Well, that's part of my sex addiction.
Yeah,
Is trans women.
Okay.
That's like where, and that it ties into the trauma.
that's
Ties into the
All
trauma, right? My very first sexual
Thanks
experience.
for sharing that.
Yeah,
man.
man.
That's interesting.
There's
fascinating.
a lot of guys that deal with it too. You know,
Yeah.
you'll be. I've shared these in meetings before, and literally, like, and this is back on Zoom, and literally, like, as soon as I'd get off the meeting, I'd get a phone call from somebody in the meeting that said, "Hey, man, thanks for sharing that. I've been there too, and I feel gross." And I was like, "Well, hey, man, you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not
Be
alone.
life
in
saving,
this."
man.
100%.
Loneliness.
Well, it's tied into my trauma. 100%. It's something that's in my arousal template. My very first sexual experience was with a guy, and I liked it. You know, so like that's totally part of the arousal template. Something that's always there.
That's that's a phrase that people don't know probably what a arousal template.
Yeah, the arousal template is simply like what do you find appealing?
Will get you. Yeah.
What do you find appealing? Right. I've been working on my 4th step. My sponsor had me write out my entire arousal template. What is your arousal template? What's on there? I want everything. I want everything. So I said, all right, man, you'll get it.
I think mine starts and stops with 2 females. Sorry, is that okay to joke? I mean, but it may be halfway. I'm just being honest, being vulnerable.
It's all right. I'll call my sponsor later.
All right,
It's okay.
I
I got him on speed dial, so it's all right.
This conversation came up at home multiple times, and it's not on my wife's arousal template. She's going to kill me for even talking about her arousal template. But
Did you know she had one?
then she had to explain to me, even if I believe in monogamy and would not want, and I'm like, well, we have to. The first box I think needs to be checked. And I'm trying to before we get to the second. She's like, they're both no's, and you got to have 2 yeses. I think.
Usually.
And I'll stop talking.
Usually that's how it goes. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, but after that, like, so my last big relapse, like, I went out and played a hockey game. And they were like, you played really well.
I was going to say, if I could pitch a shutout.
Coming down
Yeah.
for cocaine, man.
I
Surprised my heart didn't explode, honestly.
I left a game, probably one of my last skates. It was a senior men's league, and I was drinking before the game, after work, a little bit during, and I did a couple keys. and went to the game. And midway through the second, I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I started having a real panic attack. It was the first time, and then I was a lot of shame. I don't know, do they fucking know? Teammates were counting on you. I mean, even if it was a men's league game, they fucking care, and almost too fucking much, which was my point. Like, settle down, boys.
I had a guy, like, I was out in my car. I had a guy, like, walk past me one night, and he was like, "Oh, getting ready for the game, huh?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah." Oh shit. Like, oh shit.
Need one?
Yeah. Hell no, dude.
Sharing?
I'm not the sharing addict. Like, nope. Like, I'm like, I heard on one of you guys' episodes, you guys were talking about Soulard and like Mardi Gras and like
Jeff went.
Yeah, we used to that was like we'd go down there. I had buddies that lived down there, so we always had the bathroom.
Sure.
Like we'd go the night
that's
before,
key. Yeah.
and we would just get a bunch of dope. But like the funny thing is like, yeah, all right, we'd all throw in and get dope, but I'm gonna get my own bag.
Yeah.
I got my own bag. I'm gonna hold on to yours.
Sure.
And I'm gonna do it out of yours.
Right.
Or maybe I might even skim a couple of those rocks off the top and throw them into my bag, so that then at the end of the night when y'all are going to bed, I'm fucking creeping around the house, all walking on eggshells, trying not to wake anybody up, but like wide-eyed, and then I'm on the phone looking at apps, trying to get somebody to hook up with me, and then go in and dick doesn't work, and well then I'll come back home and then it's to the porn.
Yeah.
That was essentially what
for hours.
That's what, dude. 12 hours holed up in my room.
Holy
just
shit.
Literally doing lines, checking a hookup app, talking to people on there, and then going to porn. And then literally, all right, next line. And it starts all over again. All over again.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, healthy sex supposed to be fun. Like, there's no fucking fun in that. That's not, like, that is fucking hijacking your life.
Oh, man. I was such a slave.
Yeah,
right. I mean, this is what addiction does, right? Like, I'm such a slave to it. And take out the coke, right? Like, because for the longest time I thought I had a coke problem, right? I was like, man, this coke is, and for the longest time, it's funny. You say this in a room and you see how many of the heads go up and down. I thought that once I met the person that I'm supposed to be with, these behaviors will stop.
Really?
The drugs will stop. The porn use will stop. The lusting after others will all stop, right? Until I met a person that I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life, which is my ex-girlfriend. We got together and it actually amplified, right?
Oh, wow.
It actually
it made it worse.
My addiction got worse because subconsciously I'm telling myself this tape of when I meet the right person, these things are going to stop. Well, then I met this person that I thought was the right person. We were building a life together. I really thought we were going to get married, and my behaviors didn't stop. So now my brain's going, well, nobody can fucking help us. We might as well just burn this thing to the ground.
Yeah, no shit.
So now and then more shame and guilt because, again, the behaviors, right? Like, I'm a straight guy, but here I am, sleeping with trans women. And, like, that's shameful, man. I mean, even to this day to talk about it, like, I don't talk about it as open. I talk more openly about it now than I did 6 months ago. Right. Because I just realized, like, this is part of my story, and it could really help somebody by doing this.
Means you're healing.
Yeah, 100%.
So you would identify as a straight male?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's, yeah, okay. I've heard. What? It's a hard question.
Alex got it. It's okay.
Well, what's wrong?
Okay. Threw me off there. All right.
Well, I'm just curious. Sexual identity is a huge fucking topic now. I mean, and it's
100%.
And I think about there's men out there that I've heard that identify as straight, but will go on meth benches and have gay sex for weeks, or months, whatever. And they there's some. I've heard some people say, well, no, I'm bi. And to each their own. But I do know I could personalize with doing a bunch of blow and being horny as fuck and never really being able to get there. And I was rolling with, I would hanging out in strip clubs and, almost fucking married one. So God bless her. But,
Still Facebook friends?
No.
Yeah, I mean, the coke led me down those dark paths, right?
Sure.
Those seeds were already there. The curiosity was already there. And, sex addiction, just like any other addiction, it is progressive. You need more and more.
It doesn't
and
get
more
better.
and more.
Yeah.
No, it gets worse. Right? It gets worse. You need more and more and more. So I remember always thinking, all right, I got a problem with cocaine and I need to stop. Well, I think it was like 2020. I tried getting clean from cocaine.
From coke, okay.
From cocaine. I went to my partner at the time. I said, hey, I've lied to you so many times. I'm not at home sleeping. I'm doing blow. And I'm not hanging out with you because I'm doing this. I need help. She stuck with me.
But you didn't even recognize at the time that the sex was... You just thought it was you.
I just thought it was me, and I thought it was the coke, right?
Sure.
And I've cheated on every single girlfriend up until my current partner right now. Everyone before her, I've cheated on. Every single one. And so I told her, hey, I got this problem. I want to get clean. She's like, okay, let's get you help. I went through Chestnut. I had a drug and I had a SUD counselor through Chestnut. Now, this was in COVID, so everything was over the phone. Right. I was chopping up lines on the phone with this counselor. I was putting her on mute, chopping up lines, snorting them, coming back. Oh, yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah.
Just fucking talking a mile a minute.
Meetings, I'm good. I'm good. And then all the while, too, still lying to the girlfriend.
Were you drinking when you were doing blow, or did it matter?
Nope.
That's so. It always fascinates me.
I'm a dry sniffer, man.
Yeah,
I'm a dry sniffer, and if I knew that I
I just couldn't. It was always to drink more.
Mine was too, but once I got if I knew that I was going to go out to Mardi Gras, and drink, I knew I was going to need Coke.
Sure,
because as soon as I start drinking, I want Coke.
You
and then once I get the Coke, I'm done drinking. I'll sip on a beer. But, your mouth's fucking numb and you can't feel it. And
you get a little gaggy.
You get a little gaggy. And so, there would be times at the end of the night where I would start slamming 151 just so I can go to sleep.
Yeah, that's somebody else said that.
But then it came in Xanax.
Right.
So now I've got Xanax on deck. So when I'm ready to
151's like drinking fucking gasoline.
Yeah. So now at one point in time, I was doing half of my line was Coke, half of the line was Xanax.
Fuck.
Just so that I could sleep.
Wow.
And so
fighting each other, sounds like.
Yeah. So then in January 2021, January 11th, 2021, I went on a bender the night before. Well, it really wasn't actually a bender. It was I moved in with my girlfriend thinking, okay, this is gonna fix me. Right, I'm going to have some accountability. She's got kids.
I get that,
I'm going to move in with her.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Right, and
I just need to settle down. I mean, you're right, girl. I'm to settle down.
I just need to settle down. I need to live there for some accountability. Well, then it got to the point where, all right, I get off work at 3:30. She gets off work at 5. I can be my dope man's girl. It was a dealer. She was a girl. I was like, I can be at her house by 3:45, and then I've got an hour and a half to get as much Coke down as I can before the girlfriend gets home.
Boy.
And that's what I started doing. I'd leave work, go get Coke. So I'd start doing it in the car. Knee on the wheel. I'm breaking it up on my phone. I always had a plate and not a dollar bill, straw. Dollar bills were below me. I would not do it out of a dollar bill because I'd lose it in there in the folds.
Absolutely. I mean, it had nothing to do with those fucking dollar bills that have been in some asshole. And
I didn't care at all, man. I mean, think about where I was putting my own shit.
Yeah, right.
I didn't care. That was the least of my concerns at that point. But I went on I had used, and at that point in time, she came home and she could tell that I was off, and I was like. She was like, okay, what's going on with you? Well, at this point in time, the Coke's gone, but I'm still high. So I'm still in the search for sex.
Yeah, so you did these fucking rails for an hour and a half. She gets home, and then are you cooking dinner or fucking watching?
I'm trying.
Frasier,
I'm
are you
trying
sitting
to
around?
hold it
what
all
are you
together.
doing?
I mean, I can't imagine somebody high on Coke trying to act normal.
Oh, it was bad.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah.
It was. I couldn't eat.
Paranoia.
You can't eat.
Right, you're like, it's dinner time.
I'm jittery. I still want it.
Sure.
I'm thinking about how can I get out of this house so I can go get more because party's not over yet.
All you're thinking about.
That's all I'm thinking about. And she was like, something's off. And I was like, all right. And it's kind of fucked up because I admitted my use to her so that I could tell her I needed space so that I could leave the house to go get more coke and try to find somebody to hook up with. And she was like, okay, so you need space. You want to like go in the basement? And I was like, no, I want to go to my mom's house. She was like, okay, all right. So I go to my mom's house, call my coke dealer. She doesn't answer. So I go to my mom's house and I sit there for a couple hours. Then finally I go back to where I was living with her. And we get into a fight and we go to bed. And then I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. At that point in time, I had to be at work at 5. I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I fucking hated that, yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to work today. I grabbed a Xanax out of the cupboard, popped it, passed out.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm waking up. It's about 10:30. I hear her coming into the house, and she comes in and she sits down. Her
girlfriend.
This is the ex.
Okay, got it.
I'm living with her.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
She sits down on the bed and she goes, Alex, I'm about to go pick up my son. You need to be gone by the time I get back.
Good for her.
And I'm like,
I mean, just seriously,
what
like,
the?
yeah.
I'm like, what? She was like, I went through your phone. You know, I found all these messages and in one of those messages, I was like trying to get somebody to come over to her house while she was gone. On my off day, I was trying to have somebody over to her house.
To fuck?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And she was just like, I'm not. And, you know, I wasn't. She was the one that actually told me I was a sex addict. She was the one. In that day, January 11th, 2021, she said, I think you're a sex addict.
Did it land?
It did.
Really?
I was like.
Because you're still fucked up.
You're
in it.
I'm in it, and I'm like, man, I think you're right. But in that moment, was I accepting of it? No,
of
absolutely
course not.
Dude, I tore the house up.
Oh, yeah,
You know, we got into a
the
fight.
seed was planted.
The seed was
Sure.
planted. I left her house, ended up going on a 5-day bender, called my drug dealer. She answered, went straight to my drug dealer's house.
Are you paying for all this?
I worked in the union for a long time.
All right.
I was a union processor for a company called Luxco that made liquor. And I worked 6 days a week. And
Yeah.
it was great money.
Good paying job.
Good money. Also found out that you can put a credit card on Venmo, and my drug dealer accepted Venmo.
Nice.
So I was maxing out credit cards. And I went on a 5-day bender, which ended up in someone's garage at 5 a.m. in a glory hole. Don't know who was on the other side of it. Have no idea. And then at that point in time, I was like, I went home, and that's when I grabbed the 151, and I wanted somebody to talk to so bad. I went and woke my mom up, and I was like, Mom, I got a problem.
If you're fucking a glory hole, are you a sex addict? Just plain and simple. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean,
That's, that's kind of,
So there's
it's
it's like I say, if you're drinking airplane shots of Fireball on your way to work at 8 a.m., you're an alcoholic. If you're fucking a wall.
It's safe to say, look, I'm not in the business of telling anybody that they have a problem,
Sure.
right?
Oh.
That's not my job here.
Jacob is.
It's my I'll tell him. Yeah,
I know people who do that like as couples. So they go.
Yeah,
Like it's their kink?
It's different,
I think that might
like
be
a
a little different. It's a weird
swinger part.
No, we don't kink shame. That's what
No.
they say that on the radio show I listen to in the morning.
No kink shame.
Although
Yeah.
the one guy, the older guy, I say I do kink shame, and then if my wife ever hears it, because I'll listen to it, getting ready, she's like, I kink shame too. She's such a sweet little
You
Christian.
know what? I bet you if she was in public, she wouldn't say that to people.
Oh, yeah, because she's right. No, she just I think is looking directly at my eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't.
Just so you know.
Yeah, so I'm not a clinician, but I think if you're fucking a glory hole,
it's a good sign.
You might want
Let's
to call
say-
somebody.
Especially if you're high on coke.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah. That's
No, I was gonna say if you're fucking doing a bunch of blow and you fuck a wall, you're fine. But if you're you got an excuse. No, I'm just kidding.
it's
so
a
this.
telltale
Let me ask
sign.
you about this girl, if that's okay, and we can breeze past it because I don't know the status, but it sounds like she had her. So was she a drink? Did she drink? Did
No,
she do drugs? I mean,
she really wasn't. She had her baggage.
sure.
We all do,
right? Yeah.
right? She had betrayal trauma from her relationship with her dad. Her dad leaving when she was young.
Yeah.
Not really being around. Ex-boyfriends not having real great track records with them. She was pretty codependent. But
she found this out and said, "Get out of here!" By the time, and you left, and
then she cut like all
And the
communication.
Alex movie, I mean, she's I don't know the rest of the story, but she's sounding like she's got like a hero role in your story here.
Dude.
And I hate to, I mean, that glorify her, but I
No, like from that day, honestly, on, I have always been very grateful
yeah,
that she did what she did.
sure. Well,
Because
when you
without
said it, I go,
that-
good for her. Like,
Yeah,
because
100%.
that's how I mean, sorry to, I just felt it through what you were saying, and we all fucking need someone to stop enabling us and say that, and that person, it's hard to forget who, and the people.
We spoiler
And the-
alert,
yeah.
we did not get back together.
Sure.
That's why I got legitimately. That's why I got into recovery, was to get her back. She did not come back. She cut off all ties with me, and honestly, like, I am very grateful for that. Is the January 11th, 2021 is the worst and best day of my life.
I hear that.
That's
often.
what set me on my
Yeah.
path. Honestly, without that, I was always jealous getting into recovery because I'd hear guys be like, "Yeah, I woke up one morning and I thought, you know what? I think I got a problem with porn, and I should probably do something about that." That was not my story at all, right? Like, I needed a spiritual 2x4 to the back of the head to get my shit in line, and
I feel that.
she gave that because it was my decision, right? I was at a crossroads, and but if she would have stuck around, I wouldn't have got the help that I needed.
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't have got the help that I needed. I'm a firm believer in that. That's what set me on the path.
Right.
Like, I was in so much pain of losing her that it was like, I need to do something about this. And for the first year and a half of my recovery, I mean, that was my motivation. Getting her and her kids back was my motivation. And then it got to the point where it was like, all right, like, so she's moving on. She's with somebody else. She's actually married now, so good for her, But yeah, it was definitely like, until it got to the point where I was like, okay, starting to like who I am. Mm-hmm. And okay, I see that I've got a reason and a purpose behind all of this. So, you know what? My time will come. I'll find that person again. And, it was definitely through the help of, like, the treatment center that I went to out in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
Begin Again Institute.
And is it a SUD treatment center?
Specifically sexual addiction.
Really?
Specifically,
Okay.
They work under.
I didn't even know if they existed. To be
They
honest
do.
with you.
There's only a couple.
Okay.
I know that there's one out in L.A. There's one in.
Got to be one in L.A.
There's one in L.A. There's one in California. No, sorry, Arizona. Dr. Patrick Carnes. He's almost like the godfather of sexual addiction.
Okay.
He's kind of what started the movement back in like the 80s, I believe. And so there's a couple places, but this place that I went to, Begin Again Institute, which I'm still very much connected with today. They actually sponsor my podcast.
Oh, nice.
I've had a bunch of their therapists on, and I'm involved with their alumni stuff. And
I need a recovery center to sponsor
they were that was actually started by a guy by the name of Dr. Michael Barda. And his whole program was called TINSA, Trauma-Induced Sexual Addiction.
That's your fucking life story.
That's my life story, right? And
I mean,
so it connected so many of the dots. Mm-hmm. So many of the dots for me, we learned about big T, little t traumas, and, essentially what does recovery look like from sexual addiction? And it was an intense, man. It was intense. There was only 9 guys in my cohort. And it wasn't the revolving door. It was everybody checks in on the same day. Everybody leaves on the same day.
Okay. So it's
you guys are going through this together. We had, I tell all the clients here, I'm like, y'all are fucking lucky. I didn't have TVs.
Thank you.
I couldn't make Amazon orders. I didn't have a single phone call the entire time that I was there. The only guys that did, they got one phone call to their spouse. They were basically like, y'all need to talk to each other. So that's what we did. They took us on.
Vulnerable.
We woke up in the morning. They took us on hikes. Then they bussed us to the center. We had clinicals for
Boulder
8 hours.
Swansea's no Boulder. We like our community here, but Boulder is a.
Well, it's so my mom actually found this treatment center. I told her I'm a sex addict and I need help. And she found it. She Googled sex addiction, and that was the first thing that popped up. And she said, "Alex, I think that this is the place for you."
Do they take insurance?
No.
Yeah,
no, they don't.
I didn't think they did, but
no, they do work with. There's a company out there called MLend that is specifically that will help for treatment and things like that. But yeah, because sex addiction, because you'll talk to some therapists today that don't believe sex addiction is a real addiction. They don't believe it, right? And then there's people that I talk to in the real world that are like, what? Man, it must be nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on a second. Stop right there.
You weren't,
Yeah.
I was fucking
Stop,
a wall
stop,
in somebody's
yeah,
garage. I'm with you, bro. I mean, like,
Dude, like absolutely. And I'm like, well, hold on, time out. Like, my life literally became
And-
unmanageable.
Yeah, like ruin your life.
You know what?
my life ruined my life.
look, I mean, the inability, the impulsiveness of like people having affairs has wrecked families and people get killed over it for centuries. This is not anything new. Fucking people are such assholes, judgmental, fucking arrogant assholes. To say that's not an addiction.
They have no idea, and they probably have a problem themselves with something, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's usually the case.
Look at how accessible porn is these days. Like,
Was it Chris Rock or somebody said it's a nobody's doing or watching porn, but it's a multi-billion-dollar
Right,
industry.
yeah.
Right. One of the
it's
comedians
everywhere,
said that. Yeah.
right? I mean, I remember being on LimeWire.
I got my first right.
Yeah.
I
Downloading still pictures,
Yes.
waiting 45 minutes to download a still picture, right? I used to go into chat
fake
rooms.
Anna
I got in
Kournikova.
trouble one
Yeah,
time.
right? Like,
That's traumatic.
I printed out porn pictures and left them in the
The mom
tray.
caught you.
Noob, dude. What a noob.
do you know how I know you're not a sex addict? You left them in the tray.
left them in the tray.
You left them in the tray.
No shit. That'd be fucking.
Those would have been in not left my back pocket.
Yeah, yeah.
Those things would have had the hole in them from me unfolding them so many times.
That the first thing that's coming to mind is when you ask about insurance and then the lack of beds, as we usually say beds. We say that about substance use and alcoholism. That people will ask me how's IRC going. I'm like, well, it's a hard question to answer. We're almost full, which is great, but it's like people. So many people are out there. There's not enough beds in the country, the community, especially here, Southern Illinois. There's not, and I can't imagine. I mean, it's an infinitely worse problem for sex addiction, and insurance hasn't caught up to it. So we got to start that nonprofit.
Absolutely.
Seriously, fuck, man. I mean, because
Absolutely.
this is I guess untapped market is the way to say it from a business standpoint. But there's a lot of people out there that, and I would imagine, and this is a question for the recovery side. I always say there's all kinds of different types of alcoholics. I mean, there's different types of sex addicts.
100%.
People that can't stay monogamous and ruin, betray promises, and if you agree to get in a monogamous marriage and you fuck that up, there's culpability, and you're unable to not do it. It's a problem. There's the criminal aspect to it.
100%. 100%.
Which is a whole different fucking ball of wax.
It's you get guys that it's just porn, right?
Right. I hear that
It's just porn. It's just porn. Mine, not. Porn is for me, porn is a last effort. Right? I can't really find what I'm looking for. So, all right, I'm going to go to porn, but I'm going to eventually go back to this search because I didn't find what I'm looking for. But, you get guys that, in my view of porn is, my view personally, it is cheating on my spouse or on my partner because I'm getting off to somebody else.
Sure.
And my ex used to tell me that a lot. She had a problem with the porn that I was watching. And I was like, well, I'm not cheating on you, right? I'm not getting physical. But in my mind, I totally see where she's coming from now. Especially if I'm, because it got to the point where like I'd be like, all right, cool. So we had sex last night, so we're not going to have sex today. Good. Now I can go watch porn because I don't have to perform for her. So, or I'm thinking of somebody else while I'm having sex with her, and like that's not healthy at all. That's not healthy one bit. And so like the porn use, I mean, it's rampant. And, you think about it, like it's an escape. It's an escape. Right.
Sure.
And not to mention like with it starting younger and younger for kids, like I didn't have a solid relationship to base relationships off of growing up. My parents stayed together up until about 10 years ago. My parents are separated now. But they were always together, but There was no affection. There was no conversations. So I viewed relationships in terms of porn. This is what a relationship looks like. If the sex doesn't look like this in a relationship, it's not a good relationship. And I don't want that relationship. I want the girl that's going to try these moves with me. Porn is so unrealistic. When it comes to the grand scheme of things, like porn is so unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know, but seeing that at an early age and saying, okay, well, this is what I have to go off of. Okay, so this is what I'm basing my relationships off of. You know? And so it's powerful stuff, man. You know, talk about the dopamine in the brain, and it'll rewire you real quick.
And I guess one of the questions that I have for you that comes to mind is my playbook is I can't drink. You know, but there's a reality. There's a reality in your world, in your recovery, where you are having healthy sex again. There's not a reality where I'm having a healthy VO and club soda, or you're having a healthy fucking
Shot here.
yeah, right.
But he's not doing healthy coke.
No.
But what does that look like for someone that's in sexual? Is it a recovery?
Yeah. So sex addiction's a process addiction, right? Just like overeating, undereating, right? Like I don't ever want to go back to drugs and alcohol again. But how do I integrate sex as a healthy element into my life? And it comes down to that emotional intimacy piece, right? Being in a committed relationship. So when I got with my partner that I'm with now, she's amazing. I had to be.
So you are in a
honest.
relationship?
I am in a relationship. I've been in a relationship for about 8 months. I was single for 3.5 years of my recovery.
Were you abstinent? Can I ask if?
So
that
well,
abstinent?
let's
All
put
right,
it this
yeah,
way.
sorry.
Let's put it this way. I am just now approaching 11 months sobriety from my inner circle behaviors.
You're going to have to unpack that a little bit.
Sure,
if you can,
sure, absolutely. Yeah. So my inner circle behaviors, my bottom line behaviors are my relapses. Porn, masturbation, sex outside of a committed relationship,
Glory
strip
holes.
clubs, glory holes. Yes, you name it. Yes.
Stop kicking past
Yes.
the fucking glory.
Thanks. It's like, man, every time you say that, it's like this little.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
God,
no, I'm just kidding. I'm just talking shit.
I love you so much. This is good stuff, Alex, man. I'm so grateful for you.
Yeah. So
those are your
those are my bottom line behaviors.
Okay.
Right, those are my inner circles in the program, and I've actually integrated this into my courses here with the clients. Is we have what's called 3 circles.
Okay.
So my inner circle is my bottom line behaviors. If I
Okay.
go into my inner circle, that is a relapse for me.
Okay.
Right. Then I have my middle circle, which is red flag behaviors.
Interesting.
Right. Not going to meetings, objectifying, fantasizing, not calling my sponsor. These are red flag, slippery slope behaviors.
Okay.
And then I have my outer circle, which is all healthy behaviors, right? Prayer, meditation, going
Nice.
to meetings, talking to my sponsor, being of service. So what happens is I find myself in my
Yeah,
middle
see how that's
circle.
applicable to what we're doing here for addiction.
It is, and,
yeah.
and the clients love it.
fucking-
Because it's visual.
That's gonna be one of my how much different is treatment for sexual addiction than what we're doing here? Because my belief is I don't believe in like alcohol, cocaine, heroin addict, sex addiction. I believe addict.
100%.
So therefore, the treatment for addiction is all like. So I think you might ask me if we could help someone with gambling addiction before.
And you
know
know
what
the
I mean?
process.
I said it's all the same.
Yeah.
Like the coping skills and what we're doing with the brain and trying to rewrite it, create neural pathways and like healthy ways to live. It's all the same when it comes to addiction. So.
It really is, and that's why I like to focus on the emotions, right? Because it doesn't matter.
For the record, I wasn't asking you about my own gambling.
he's not ready to face that yet. But
that is the one thing that I've never done, and I don't ever plan on getting
Don't,
into it.
if- yeah,
is
you don't.
gambling. I don't win anything, so
There's definitely
therefore,
emotions involved in
that's
that.
why-
I don't 100%, right? So that's what I tell people here is like, I don't care what your addiction is.
Sure.
I'm a sex addict. You're an alcoholic. You're a fentanyl user. What's underneath that is uncomfortable, unregulated emotions.
Bingo. And I've heard people, Christina's episode, she's a big Celebrate Recovery. They have a ton of, we talked about that. They have sexual lust, I think is what it is. And I forget what it's called, but there's an eating one. There's codependency, which my wife has done. So there's all of that. And I thought about that when you were saying process addiction. And then I have heard that it is very difficult like eating disorder potential
Yeah.
clients, and some can say that when someone checks in here, they have a form of eating disorder. Nobody's eating regularly by the time they get to rehab. Typically, even my diet consisted of passing out to a fucking 12-inch, who am I kidding, 16-inch pie pizza, or a fucking Jack in the Box. But then I'd wake up in the morning and maybe have a string cheese just to coat the stomach and drink all day. I mean, that's a form of. But I've met some folks, and a dear friend that's been. I think it did inpatient for eating disorder, and very difficult. But it's always we really connected because there's so many similarities to what's going on in here to your guys' points. So
again, I believe, I don't care what your addiction is, I believe what's underneath there is, Gabor Mate says behind every addiction is lost trauma and unmet needs.
Amen, man.
And so, like, instead of asking why the addiction, why the pain, right? We're all hurting.
Somebody sent me that today. It might have been my sister said somebody speaking to that, and that was the quote. Why don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer that, again, I don't care what your addiction is, we can relate. Now,
I like the 3 circles a ton.
The 3 circles, and again, the clients love it. Because it's a really
We've already
cool,
done my arousal testimony.
It's a great visual, right? So when I find myself in that middle circle, rarely do I ever go from my outer circle to my inner circle. I have to pass through that middle circle in order to get to my inner circle. So if I'm living in my middle circle, I am eventually going to end up in my inner circle. So in order to combat that, I need to lean into my outer circle behaviors.
It goes along with like the symptoms that I teach are like
100%.
Relapse starts months before the use.
100%.
That a relapse isn't used at the end.
Relapse starts in the inner circle.
That's when you're in relapse mode.
100%. 100%.
So you said earlier you have 11 months.
I've got 11 months from my inner circle behaviors.
Okay.
So it's been 11 months since I've looked at porn, since I've masturbated, since I've hooked up with somebody outside of a committed relationship. Within my own recovery over the last 4 years, right, I have never been able to string together more than like 4 months sobriety.
Your partner is going to be happy to know that 11 months is longer than 8 months.
She is so like 100% right. She's just not finding this out. Oh shit.
No, you're going to clear.
I love you, baby. So one, I wanted to make sure I had like 2 months away from my. I mean, I'm a single guy, right?
Sure.
Like, sex is. So I think that there are some differences in the recovery process from sex addiction opposed to alcohol or anything else.
But maybe closer to the eating. I mean, you can't have eating disorder, but you have to eat.
You have to eat, right? Like, so I believe that as a sex addict, there's a different perspective that I bring to recovery.
Sure.
Because I've really had to go inside and uncover every stone to take a look at my patterns. And somebody actually shared this in one of my rooms one time. They said, because they belong to another program, they belong to the beverage program. And she said, in those programs, we all know how fucked up we are, but we don't talk about it. Whereas in the S rooms, we talk about how fucked up we are. Right? And there's another guy that I had on the show that, again, also part of these other programs. And I'm not knocking any of the other programs.
No.
But there's like this 20-80. People are sharing 20% on top. They're not going into that 80% that they really need to go into,
Sure.
right? That's what I tell these people all the time is like, hey, get sober. But there is all of this internal work that you need to do for yourself if you want to find lasting sobriety.
That can, it just seems with what you suffer from and the people you work with in the sex stuff, that there's just so much, whether it's cultural shame or that comes along with it more so. And you really seem to be in a really good spot with that. It's fucking admirable. I mean,
thank you.
The way to be, and you're helping a lot of fucking people, man. There's a lot of people that, I mean, there's, my fucking mother cannot talk about it at all. She would tell the kids, like us and my sister, that an angel put a baby in a belly, and that's what the belly button was for. I mean, just like cannot talk about sex at all.
Yeah.
And I laughed that she probably had sex 3 times because you have 3 kids. I can't even fucking. I gotta go. I'm fucking anyway. But like, it's just there's people and I mean that just go generations with it being taboo or it being fucking bad, like you said, with these fucking cult-like religions. And sorry, but that's how
Yeah,
I feel
it's
about 'em.
and it's
Not to
it's
shit
just-
on that
it's-
religion, but to shit on that religion.
You know, in being single throughout all of this, you know, for 3.5 years, it was just so, you know, people like to say like, oh, well, maybe you're just really. People like to say, oh, I'm just really horny, and I'm like, okay, I can debunk that for you, right? So sure, I could claim that, right? And I believe that part of being guys is how did our ancestors survive? By passing along their genetics, right? So there is a hardwire inside of us to pass along our seed and to continue our legacy. That is totally, absolutely natural. However, I am not just horny. Because when I'm horny and I go and I use porn, why do I feel shame and guilt on the other side of that? That's not just me being horny. That's me. That's an unmet need that I'm not meeting in the right way. So it's not simply I'm just super horny. Right? When guys say that, I kind of cringe a little bit because it's like, you're just unaware.
Are you talking to me directly right now?
Hey man, if you pick up anything that I put out there, you know, hey,
In my note.
yeah, go ahead and start writing some stuff down. Yeah, time for me to start asking you some questions.
No. That's not how this
What are you
works.
feeling? Tell me what you're feeling right
That's
now.
not how this works.
Feeling anxious? That's a big one for me. But then, so that like
My nail. I don't have any fingernails left. But
that's a big thing for me is anxiety.
yeah,
Like,
me too.
and that like acting out puts out that fire. That's what we call a relapse in sexual
Do you
recovery.
have kids?
Is acting out. No, I do not.
You haven't
No.
got anybody pregnant or anything?
Nope.
Dodged some bullets.
Nope,
huh?
thank God.
Yeah.
Nope. Yep. I'm clean. I'm healthy. Man, and I've put myself in some situations
I can imagine.
that I should not have made it out of unscathed. And so, you know, meeting my partner now, you know, going into that, it's like I had to make a dating plan. Here's my dating plan, right? And part of that dating plan was like, we don't get physical until I share with you my story. Because I need to give you enough information for you to make an educated guess, an educated decision on whether or not you want to be with me.
Okay.
Here's who I am. Here's what I deal with. Here's what I'm doing to work on these things.
Right.
And the way that I actually put it out to her was, it was like our third date. And I was like, all right, I got to tell her. And it was, okay.
God, I can't imagine that conversation.
Oh, dude, it's
That's
fucking terrifying. It is so
and
scary.
she's not in the one of us. If
She
you will.
is
She's
not.
a
She is
recovered-
normie.
Yeah, okay.
She drinks one drink and says, Alex, I can't drink anymore because I don't want to feel out of control.
God, fuck. How does that?
I
I'm
know.
fascinated by these
I'm
people.
like, God, you're a saint.
It's a
Like, thank God.
superpower.
Thank God. Yeah.
So I cannot imagine that. Like, I thought it was hard when I first got out of treatment, and about the 6-month mark, some girlfriends that are like sisters were wanting me to do a online dating profile. And I'm like, how do I fucking? Because you got to answer if you drink or not. On these. When I remember that, like, how do I put? No, I just got out of rehab. Come on a date with me. But I mean, and I thought, I can't imagine what it would to on the third date have to say that to what'd you call her, a norm,
a normie? Yeah,
Nice.
a normie. Yeah. It was, man. It was. I mean, again, a lot of conversations with my sponsor.
Yeah.
Around this, right? Like, he was involved in that process. And it was one of those things where, like, all right, I told her, like, hey, she knew I was in recovery.
Okay.
Right. It's like, here's the thing with being a dual addict, right? It's like, if you're in recovery for drugs, alcohol, right? Like, it's celebrated. Right, I can go out and tell people I don't drink, and they're like,
bravos
"Good for
all the
you,
time." Yeah,
man.
right.
Like, good, congratulations.
Just my 11
good
year,
for
I got
you.
the most love I've received. Yeah.
So
I
like,
think you're going with this.
like, so I'm not lying. I'm not telling you everything, but I'm pretty open with, hey, I'm in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm pretty open. It's a lifestyle for me. Obviously, I work in the industry.
Right.
So like, when people ask, what do you do? Because that's how it got brought up, was like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do? Well, I'm a recovery coach at a drug and alcohol. Well, what got you into that? Well, I'm in 12-step recovery. Oh, congratulations.
Right.
Good for you, right? So she knew I was in recovery. She just didn't know
From what?
the sex part. I told her about the cocaine, and it came down to where, like, hey, and I told her, I said, so yes, I'm in recovery. for cocaine. I am a cocaine addict. I said, I am also a sex addict. And that's what I went to treatment for. That's the program I work. I work a 12-step SCA program. And I said, hey, so this is not a period. This is not an exclamation point. This is a ... I said, you have a voice. You are allowed to ask questions. I said, however, I do reserve the right. There's still some of my story that it's very uncomfortable for me. So if you ask me a question and I'm uncomfortable with that, I reserve the right to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with that right now. Let's circle back. So like, I really wanted to make her feel like she had the power.
Sure.
She had a voice. She had a power. You know, hey, I'm open. I will tell you anything that you want to hear. But I have to give you this information before we move forward and get physical. And even like, because then I got to bring up the trans stuff, right? So that wasn't a part of that first conversation. That was just, hey, I'm a sex addict. And then it was a few dates later that I said, okay, hey, because then my sponsor really challenged me. He's like, Alex, I swear to God, because we had kissed at that point in time, and he said, Alex, if you go any further with her, and you don't tell her about this, I am going to be all over your ass, man. I am going to chew you
Because
out.
that was on your list.
Because that was on my
That
list,
thing
right?
you talked
and
about earlier.
I don't want to be duplicitous, right? I want to look, again, I really like you. I think we have potential here. You need to know everything.
Sure.
You deserve to know everything. And I remember when we had that conversation, and she was like, okay, all right. And here we are 8 months later.
That's awesome, man. That's fucking
planning a
brave.
life together.
Yeah.
You know? So, and I still share with her today that I have urges. I have urges. You know? Just
Sure.
like anybody else in recovery.
Yeah.
I have urges. I want to use, right? I get stirred up, right? My emotions go. And in my first thought, right, I stole this from Jakob one time in one of his groups. It says that he said that, like, I'm an addict. My first thought is usually wrong. My second thought is usually wrong. My third thought is I should probably go make a phone call.
Good stuff, right?
It really,
Look at you fucking smiling.
dude. It really is though. Like, it really is, because normally my first thought is
What do you mean by go make a phone call?
call my sponsor.
Bingo.
Call my program friends.
Not
right?
your drug dealer.
Say a friend, not my
Yes,
drug
that-
dealer.
well, no, people listening were going to be, what does he mean by that? That's why.
Nope. Yeah, make a program phone call, right? Don't go back into the little black book.
Well,
you
because
know?
it could go the other way.
It totally could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That second thought could go, I'm going to make this the wrong call. Make the right call.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
a sponsor, yeah.
Yeah.
Or go find a fucking meeting, right?
Go find a meeting. Yeah. Go find a meeting. Go call my sponsor. You know. Go be of service.
How do
I gotta
you?
something?
People ask all the time, like, if I know of any good AA meetings, and I always tell them, I go, I've heard of some, but you got to go to a bunch and find the one that works for you. And how are and then I leave. They're very easy to find. You Google proximity, and thousands of AA meetings will come up. NA probably the same, right? What about SCA or the other 15 acronyms you listed? SA, SCA,
Yeah.
SLA.
So SA is kind of bigger on the Illinois side. Now the thing with SA is they're a little bit more religious based, and they define your sobriety for you. And to me, I never went to any
So
of
you
those
pray the
meetings.
gay out of people. Shit like that. Go fuck
I got
yourself.
real turned off. Even just hearing that, I was like, nah, I don't like that. It all depends on where you're at too, right? So there's a lot of Zoom. So like the first year and a half of my recovery, I lived on Zoom meetings.
Yeah, because we were talking about last week with
Bree and,
Bree getting
yeah,
sober
Bree.
during COVID, like how added a whole different fucking complexity.
It really was. It really
So yeah,
was.
but the one thing that came out of it was the ability to use technology for meetings, right? So
100%. And there's a meeting literally every hour of the day.
right. So there's no excuse. You can
So there's
find
no
a
excuse,
meeting.
right? You can find a meeting.
Yeah.
SCA, that's the largest S program in St. Louis.
Okay.
So that's why I started going to that one. That's where I met my sponsor.
There's one. I know there's at least one at one of the church sites of the Gather. They have. There's a couple. We have meetings, recovery groups coming in and out of all the churches, but I know we have a ton, and I know of at least one SCA meeting at that goes to the Clayton Church.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it's Monday nights, actually.
Yes, that's the newcomer meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been to that meeting.
So
Yep.
so the guy he's got the arm. God bless him. He's got I think he might be missing an arm or he's got a handicap. You know what I'm talking about?
I know that dude. I love that. He's a good dude.
What?
Anonymous program.
Yeah, I know. So
I know. I almost said his name. No, I know that guy. That guy's been
You
around
think
a long
anybody's gonna figure
time.
out the guy with one arm?
I first met Richard Kimball. I first met him. That's a movie. I met
Mr.
him
Kimball?
Dead.
at a AA meeting.
Yeah.
He was facilitating an AA meeting. I went with an elderly woman that actually introduced Ashley and I. And me and this woman, she's in long-term recovery, and her husband passed away. I was probably about a year sober. She was my surrogate sponsor, and her husband was great, and he got cancer and died pretty quickly from diagnosis to death. It was horrible, but she took me to his AA meeting to get his 30-year chip, and the guy was leading the meeting, and it was incredible. It was really a good meeting, and they passed the chip around the room, and everybody said a blessing over the chip, and fucking Martha Ball in her eyes, and I said her name, whatever. But yeah, so the reason, so I recognize him because there's a church meeting we have on one Monday night a month that is right before it, and so they come in after, and a lot of times if we order pizza for the meeting and we don't eat it all, we give it to the
It's down in the basement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's where I go to church.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right on. That's a good meeting, man. That's the newcomer meeting.
Okay.
That's where a lot of the newcomers is.
If he's leading it, it's a real deal. That's how I feel. Like
and he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He is a really good dude. I've known him.
Fuck was that?
I've known him since I
Don't worry
got into the program. I mean, he's
Okay.
He's kind of a staple in the community for us.
Yeah, he's got in his stories. Yeah, I heard his testimony. He's a warrior for sure.
He is. I mean, he's just a really good dude. So yeah. I need to call him actually, and I'm gonna call him.
Cool.
He doesn't have a cell phone. He only has a landline. So
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's only got a landline.
I think he shared that once actually. Yeah.
So, but let's see.
Old school. He's as old. If you look up old school in the dictionary, it's this fucking guy.
It's him. So Step Solano Club, over in Tower Grove.
Okay.
They do a lot of S meetings. They got a good Friday night meeting. And then I go to one over in Webster Groves on Saturday night. It's St. Paul Episcopal.
Yeah.
Off of Bompart, right there by
That's
Webster.
right by my house.
Yeah, that's my home group. That's Saturday Night
Okay.
Fever. That's my home group.
We were just talking about. Did we talk about Cyrano's bread pudding last week?
Yeah.
You ever been to Cyrano's?
No.
It's like right down across the street from.
I've heard of
yeah,
that
the
place.
Fucking
But
best bread pudding. in the
man,
country.
so
Sugar
you're-
Fire is connected to this. They were, they still are, but
They
they.
like their meat, I think.
Yeah, and the desserts, their desserts, they win best dessert all the time.
So if that's right by your house, I mean, how upset
foodie.
were you that like CJ Muggs shut down?
Not at all.
No, that was like our place to go after the meeting.
Well, my family
That was- now we
restaurants
gotta
have
go to
all cornered the market there, so it was CJ's. Was all right.
Okay. I mean, it's
So I
now we go to the
O&O
Clayton
and-
one.
Okay, yeah.
Now we go to the Clayton one.
So O&O Pizza is right across the street. That's,
Okay, yeah.
And now there's an Italian restaurant in that space.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm usually at O&O or I don't know.
Little
Snob.
sidebar here. I'm in a 217 group because I grew up in the 217 area code.
Champaign Urbana, baby.
Yeah, and
but not you.
People were saying, "Hey,
Decatur?
we're going to St. Louis." No, I grew up in a really small town, Carrollton, Illinois.
Yeah, I know where that's at. I'm
Do you?
familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, they were saying, "Hey, we're going down to St. Louis. We want to eat at a really nice restaurant with the best food. My husband's a chef, so it matters." And overwhelmingly, Olive and Oak is who they said.
Okay, I was hoping you'd say that.
I really thought it would be because they're like, we want a fancy restaurant, and Olive and Oak is nice, but it's not like over the top, snooty fancy.
Right.
It's just like, it's a really good. Anyway, whatever. Sorry.
No, great sidebar. Good
Yeah.
little plug.
Yeah.
Now we can
This
get them to
episode is
sponsor.
brought to you by Olive and Oak.
Yeah, right. They just
Olive
want
and
to pay
Oak
my tab.
and sexual compulsives anonymous.
No, is
Come on
that,
out, dude.
so is
Come on
that a
out.
12-step program?
Yep.
So you work the steps just similar or the same?
Similar, right? Like it's just like the literature is a little different, right?
Yeah.
Step one, I admitted that I was powerless over my sexual behaviors. That my life had become
What step is
unmanageable.
the amends? Is that
9?
9. You got to get a little through a few things first, right?
Is
You-
it 9
you
in
do.
every program?
What?
Is it
Yeah.
9 in every program?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they
Steps are all the
since
same. They
I
just
haven't
steps
got
are
there
all the
yet.
It's
same.
alcohol, it's
and I mean,
addict, or it's
we
sexual addiction.
we've got our own basic text. In the SAA, Sex Addicts Anonymous has a green book. And again, it's all kind of the same literature.
Sure.
SCA even has the promises. The promises are in the SCA. Again, wording's just a little different. But for the most part, it's
which
all
really
kind of the same kind of stuff.
Works towards Jacob's theory that an addict's an addict.
100%.
I like that. And so you have to do amends. Do you go to that first that girlfriend immediately, the ex-girlfriend immediately? Because that seems like a big one.
So I'm actually not. So I'm not on step 9.
Gotcha.
However, I have told her that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I actually started running into her recently. So it's funny. So like in early recovery, I was like, all right, I got to get through these steps. Right, because the steps are going to heal me, and I'm going to get better.
And that's problematic thinking, isn't it? I've heard you say that. People want to rush through the steps.
It's a process. You got
It's
just to say you've checked them off.
100%. And also too. So here I'll let you into the sex addict's mind.
Please do.
On my step 9 amends on my list, there's a bunch of old flames. Right?
Yeah.
So my motivation to make these amends was to try to rekindle a flame.
Interesting.
I am going to use 12 step to manipulate you to think that I'm a better person, and maybe you're going to want to get back involved with me. So my motivation was, I need to say I'm sorry because I was kind of a dickhead to you. I've kind of fucked up, did some fucked up things to you. I betrayed you. But also, too, like, hey, let's see what's still there, right? Right?
That's when a sponsor comes in and goes, "It's a living amends."
Right. Exactly. And honestly, like there are going to be a lot of a living amends for me because I don't need to be reaching out to these exes that are in relationships now.
So
Wait,
to Jeff's point,
what's a living amends?
Changing my ways.
So it's not, it's one of those things like the whole idea you can, I don't know, for me, like I think of something completely different. Like there's this idea of forgiveness where you don't actually have to tell a person you forgive them for something, but you do it for yourself. Is that kind of what a living amends is? You don't talk to that person necessarily?
Yes, a little bit what you're saying. But like a living amends would be like, I'm apologizing by like making my amends by changing my lifestyle, not going back to it.
Okay.
Or not doing that harm onto another person.
You don't want to, if your addiction really fucked somebody up, you could do a lot more harm than good by saying sorry to them. So
so when making your amends is going to cause them an issue or cause because really the only way you don't make amends if it's going to hurt the other person.
Yep.
If it hurts you got to make that amends still. But if it's going to hurt the other person, that's when you have to do a living amends. Or if there's no way to make that amends left, if that person passed away or something like that. Like you live it through.
It's like you honor them.
forever.
Right. Okay. Yeah. This is my weekly disclaimer that I'm not an addict, so I have to have these things explained to me.
They're very good questions. Especially,
no, it is.
And sometimes we get like real deep into program shit, and I don't understand it either.
I'm starting to, as of last week's podcast in the show notes, I'm starting to add a who this is for. And I think all the episode, because and I think it's for everybody, but like this is for, I think every episode is also for the non-addict who loves an addict, right?
Yeah.
100%.
And so that's what, kind of
100%.
what I see my role as on this podcast.
Well,
is
to be honest with you, that is probably everybody, because everybody, whether if they don't have to think very hard to an addict that they love, that's in their circle, with their family, not to confuse with the inner and outer circle stuff. But that's a good idea.
Yeah.
You've been
100%.
fucking killing it with those show notes. It's really taken a big fucking load off, man. I appreciate it.
And what's cool is I've actually got betrayed partners that listen to my show.
Oh, yeah.
I have betrayed partners that I just recently had one on.
Oh, really?
They listen. Like, you want to talk about powerful? Like, holy shit! Like, here I am as someone who has hurt and caused trauma and betrayal in someone's life. Your partner has also done the same in your life, yet you're tuning into me to hear my story. Mm-hmm. Like, in my mind, that doesn't make sense. In my mind, you should be like, you piece of shit. I can't believe you did that. Fuck you. Yeah. But actually, it's actually kind of the other way around. Like, they're trying to hear me to gain insight into the addiction, so that they can help their partner or understand their partner better. And so it's actually really powerful.
Maybe there's an element of them being able to say it to themselves that it's not their fault.
Right. That's
100%.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest things about being a sex addict is like partners think that, like, say, my ex-girlfriend said this to me, like, was I not enough for
right
you? When it's like, no, that is literally the furthest from the issue. No amount of sex would have cured me. No amount of love and affection from somebody would have cured me. Like, nobody could have cured me. I'm the only one that can do that.
It's not. I like want to say I can see that being. I mean, just really hard for women and experiences dating women. If they really like, am I not good enough physically, whatever. But guys too, man. Like, because there's always somebody bigger and stronger, and I mean, not than me, but got three right here sitting in front of me.
Yeah. I can feel the presence.
I got it.
Mental strength.
You got that, baby. But no, seriously, like it's got to be, if you can get to the point that it's not their fault. That and so that's and bravo for them to listen to it and learn, because I mean, I can understand why some people that have been so hurt wouldn't be able to ever, right? And have their own trauma that they got to deal with.
And that was like one of the things that I told my girlfriend is like, because she asked me, she's like, okay, like, what do you need from me? And I said, I just need you to be, as confident as you can be in yourself, right? Because nothing that my urges that has nothing to do with you. And I even told her, I said, look, like, I can't promise you that I will never act out ever again. I simply cannot make that promise, because I've made that promise to myself before. I've made that promise to other people, and I've broken that promise every single time. What I can promise you is that I'm going to work the program to the best of my ability, and that it has nothing to do with you not being good enough if I were to go and act out. Now, I'm not ever going to justify my acting out behaviors, but if that was to happen, sure, I think that would look a little different in my own recovery today. But again, it's nothing, because a lot of times women think, well, maybe I just need to have more sex with my partner. That's not going to cure it.
That's
not going to cure it.
That's not a scratchable itch, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
It all has to do with the internal work, right? The emotions, the feelings, right? The trauma, right? That's getting in touch with those things. That's what's going to help.
Personal question, because I like when you are able to have a healthy sex act, is there when you're done, is there a recovery process you go through, or does it feel different than what you would call your inner circle behavior?
Yeah, it's
physically it feels like the same finish, right?
Same finish.
If this wasn't such a serious, I would be all about the jokes and graphic shit, but this is real serious. So, and I'm so grateful and respectful for you sharing this, Alex. But like, so when you have a healthy, sexual encounter, and how does that look for you?
Yeah, so there is a withdrawal period too from sex addiction.
Okay, interesting.
And I really questioned this at first, because like when I act out, if I was to go act out tonight, I'd go through about a 2-week period of withdrawal.
Really?
Right, just about a 2-week period. Now, don't get me wrong; it's not the same as alcohol. It's not the same as heroin. Different, but emotionally, there's a withdrawal, right? And so I was really confused around that. I was like, well, the orgasm is the orgasm.
Right.
So whether I'm acting out or doing healthily, like how come there's no withdrawal when it's healthy?
That's exactly what I'm asking. Like, how do you distinguish the difference?
So if I'm acting out, there's normally a wave of uncomfortable emotions.
Okay.
Right? My anxiety's up. I'm irritated. I'm hurt. I'm lonely. Right? Which carry a lot of weight to them. They're very uncomfortable. They carry a lot of weight to them.
Sure.
So therefore, I'm not actually dealing with them. I'm just going and using to try to run away from these. So then afterwards, there's this massive dump. Not to mention, when I act out, it's not simply just one and done. It's, all right, well, fuck, I fucked up today, so I'm going to masturbate 4 times today.
You're going to binge. Yeah.
So now I've got not only that, but now I've got an emotional hangover too. So I'm still unregulated, and now I've just had a massive dopamine dump, and I feel like a piece of shit.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
So it's a big difference.
Within the partnership, the healthiness, right? Like typically what we like to do, her and I, is like, there's that emotional intimacy. Mm-hmm. We'll touch base with each other, right? I don't just go over there and say, take your clothes off. It's, hey, how's your day?
I try that all the time, and it just doesn't work.
Good for your wife for shutting you down like
Yeah,
that.
she
Good
does.
job. Let's talk about the emotions.
Oh,
behind
fuck, here we go again.
it. Let's talk about them.
Get the wheel out.
Yeah, get the wheel out. What's going on, man?
Stress, motherfucker. It's the most stressed out 2 years of my life.
Okay, well that's not
All
really,
right, I didn't
that's
mean to
not
answer
really
that.
an emotion. So let's get
that's
with the emotion here, huh?
Back
Here,
to you.
Let me get my
Alex.
feeling wheel out for you, man. It's on my phone.
We're good. Jesus. Trying to get a little hot in here.
So there's that emotional check-in.
Yeah, so you
Right?
guys...
There's that emotional check-in, and like, when we get done, like I feel more connected to her.
This relationship because of this communication sounds like the healthiest relationship I've ever heard of. It sounds great.
Honestly, like they say that sex addicts make some of the best partners because of the deep dive that I have to do.
Yeah.
In order to be healthy with this. Because I could because I can have unhealthy sex within the relationship.
Sure.
If I'm not sharing my emotions, right? If I'm running away after sex, if I'm using her for sex, right? Like, I could totally be unhealthy within the relationship. With her being one of the only person that I've ever been with that I haven't brought those behaviors in, the last thing I want to do is bring those behaviors into this relationship. Mm-hmm. I do not want to do that. She is too good of a person, and I have made too much progress.
Yeah,
to go back on that.
Right, you deserve this fucking.
So
recovery, man.
I feel closer to her, right? Because then we get to lay there and hold each other, right?
Sure.
And there's an emotional connection there. It's not just this empty void.
God, my wife would love you. Fuck.
There's not this emptiness, man,
Sure.
that was in the addiction. And the addiction, it was just so fucking empty.
Yeah, man.
And even to this day, right? I get those urges, right? I get the urges, man. I see somebody attractive, and I'm like, yeah, man, like that. But then I have to remind myself, man, that's going to be so empty. If I was to follow through with that would be so empty.
I can relate with the drink. Like I often, man, fuck, I just want to have a fucking drink because I'm so stressed and then I'm like, there's no fucking way that I can just have one drink and me be able to regulate. What the fuck am I thinking? Yeah, I get it. They're so connected. I appreciate this, man.
They really are. And it comes down to the emotions, right? Like, I need to be aware of my emotions, and I need to be able to share that with her, and that's still terrifying to me to this day. It's still terrifying. I'm still afraid to share my emotions. However, like, we've built a relationship to where, like, I can trust her with my emotions. I could trust her.
You have to have even a higher level of self-awareness than even people that I would say are very self-aware but the juice is worth the squeeze. Like, what a rewarding life you're living now comparatively, and
100%.
in a relationship that sounds really fucking healthy, and a lot of people could probably take some fucking tips on, I kid about, and we're doing pretty good, I kid about self-deprecating, but there's a lot of people out there that are married for 20 fucking years. You've mentioned about your own parents that don't say a fucking word to each other. And one of my best friends is a couples therapist, and she always brings up these fucking Gottman people that I don't really know who they are, but I guess they're the smartest relationship therapy people ever, apparently.
They're pretty good.
Yo, you know what I'm talking about?
I know. I'm aware of the Gottman Institute.
Yeah, that's right. If they got an institute, then I better quit fucking chirping them. There's no Pondoff Institute, so maybe I should shut the fuck up.
Nonprofit.
Yeah, baby, let's do it.
Pondoff Institute.
Just institutionalize you.
One thing, and I don't know if it's just me thinking this or wondering, but you always wonder about, it's even in natural recovery program, sorry for that horrible word, like alcohol, like AA and NA, but of what they call it 13th step, right? And people is there a healthy way for two sex addicts in recovery to find themselves in a relationship with one another?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. There is. That definitely was not something like, so on my dating list, like back to kind of like my dating plan.
Yeah.
Like, I was totally open to dating somebody in recovery. Totally open, Now it's discouraged.
Okay.
Amongst people new to the group, in the group, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
There needs to be a lot of conversations. Sponsors need to be involved, not in the physical act. Unless that's your thing.
We're not kink shaming.
Yeah, no, we're not kink shaming. But yeah, it happens though. It does happen. I haven't been involved with anybody. Also, too, like the rooms are not as. Let's put it this way.
I think I know where you're going.
Let's put it this way. There's been one person that I've come across in the S rooms that I've been attracted to in my 4 years.
Maybe the asshole mind and the judgmental mind will think, oh, these are just a bunch of horny people hooking up, right? But earlier when you were talking, there's a whole nother level of like trauma stories that they hit you differently when you add the sexual trauma to it. Mm-hmm. And I cannot imagine the shit that's shared in those rooms. There's been probably horrors both ways. So when you really peel the onion back just one little layer, you can probably think this isn't really a room where people are fucking hooking up. Yeah.
It's really not. So SCA it's a mixed group. It's men and women.
Okay.
And SCA was actually started by homosexuals that didn't feel at home in SAA. So they formed their own thing. So there's
because of the fucking religious bullshit.
So in SAA, not so much.
No, but,
I guess they just didn't feel at home, so they started SCA.
Okay.
And so the majority of the population in SCA is gay people.
Okay.
And so you see a lot of that, but there's also straight people. But what I really like about it is it's mixed. It's mixed. So there's men and women.
Yeah.
And so that helps me humanize.
That helps me
humanize women. Right? Because for so long, women were an object for me.
Sure.
They were something that I was going to use for my pleasure. They were something I was going to conquer. You are literally here to please me, and then I'm done with you until I'm ready for you again. So in going into these rooms, like I've got some really good friends who are women these days that I have really healthy relationships with that I don't objectify. That like I can be there for, and they can be there for me, and I can tell my girlfriend about them, and they're safe.
Sure.
You don't have to worry about this at all. And that's one of the things that like we try to work on that you would learn first thing in the program is like I am allowed to acknowledge beauty, but like I try to humanize women. Right? When I see somebody that I think is attractive, it's really easy for me to picture them without their clothes on or what they'd be like in bed. So instead of going that route, I try to go the route of that's a child of God loved by God. Right? That's somebody's mom. That's somebody's sister.
Sure.
That's somebody's best
Changes
friend.
it up a little
That's
bit.
somebody with friends or feelings, right? I do this to my buddies when we go out to a bar, and they're like, man, look at that girl over there. And I'm like, hey, guys, that's a human being. And they're like, oh, whatever, Alex. All right. It's kind of fun. But, like, that's what I have to do in my own life today. To this day still, I have to do that.
Yeah, probably should be a healthy behavior for myself and a bunch of other fucking guys, too.
3-second rule, right? I don't look longer than 3 seconds. Again, I try that. That's
Why
one
you
of the
look at
bigger
me?
things.
I don't feel like you make 3 seconds.
You don't think I make it?
Here's the 20-second rule.
You think I was going to say, what do you think? 4, 5, 20. I'm just fucking gawking. Fuck off.
Even 3 seconds is a little long if you count it out.
Mississippi. If you had that's a lot of Mississippi.
To Mississippi.
Oh, boy. You drag that up.
Yeah.
That's my 3 seconds. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. And that's like one of the biggest things that I like really struggled with was like objectification of women.
Yeah.
Again, viewing women as my object. They're an object for me to use for my own pleasure.
I appreciate you. I mean, that's ballsy to say out loud that you had those feelings and that, and then to say you've worked past that. That's like I said, there's a level of self-awareness and mindfulness that you have that is impressive and
Thank you.
I mean, and helpful for a lot of people. I just there is from the SCA standpoint, you guys. So it's for the one Ed, we talked about. The specific one was a newcomers group. And
Yep.
You see a lot of the shame. I mean, we see a lot of fucking church trauma, especially for the LGBTQ community. That when people weaponize Jesus and it's just fucked up. But that it. I like so when you were saying the SCA, and I don't know if that's kind of what came to mind when you mentioned like if there was homosexuals that were predominantly in that group, and what why there's so much shame just in them being themselves. I can see that being kind of that's fucked up. I can feel that shit pisses me off, and I'm stuttering now.
Yeah, it's man.
Hate bullies, and it's fucking bully fucking behavior by church people.
You know, it's like I'm really grateful for like the upbringing that I had, and the fact that like it really did help me lay a foundation for my relationship with God today.
Sure.
You know, I don't believe in organized religion. You know, I totally buy into the whole spiritual. You want a good clip that'll go viral.
You ready?
You know, that whole saying of like, religion is for people that are afraid to go to hell. Spirituality is for people that have been there and don't want to go back.
Ha!
That'll stir up. I posted that one once online, and I got like 6,000 views and 25 comments on it. And it was wild.
That is.
But like
it's
really interesting though, and that's been around for a long time in the rooms. But like it really laid the foundation, because like I believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
I have
I've heard it.
I have a relationship with God today, right? But I don't believe that I need to go to church in order to strengthen that relationship. But that's one of the things that I saw in the church was like people would go to church and they would be a saint one day out of the week.
1 hour out of the week.
1 hour out of the week. Well, what are you doing for the other 6 days out of the week?
Not a fucking
right?
thing. Judging
and
the fucking
I
thing.
lived with that.
Sure.
I lived with that. And it's like, that's not what
Hypocritical
God, that is
motherfuckers.
not what God wanted. That's not right. Like man is corrupt. Man has created the church. So therefore man is corrupt.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were saying you were in England, and part of like the introduction to the church we go to, because Jeff goes there, work there, goes there every once in a while. I say still, it's your story. I'll fuck off. There was I think they're like one of the newcomer class. There was a 4-week class, and it went like why Christianity, why church, why Jesus, and why the gathering. Like that was kind of the 4-week class. And the woman, and the only reason I bring it up, the not just to plug the church, but I don't have a tattoo or anything of the church. Yet.
Yet.
I haven't made that tier of giving.
I love how you put that in there. Yeah. It's a good program. So.
You got that. The woman that taught the church history was, she's incredible. She did this hour class and like gave you the cliff notes of the Church of England so the king could fuck all these other women that broke off from the Catholic Church, and that's why it was formed. Like it was all, and I'm probably getting a little bit of that wrong, but I think that's the gist of. As one of the Henrys, I think, decided to start the Church of England so he could divorce his wife and go fuck everybody else, and he started started a whole church over it. So I thought that was like, I was like, oh shit, but and it's a Methodist church, and the guy that started Methodism's an English guy, John Wesley, I guess. And look at me, fucking scholar over here. That's as most I know. But that to your point, it is a. There's been so much damage out there done by asshole churches, and I totally understand where you're coming from.
100%, man. It's look at King
Jakob he could come to church a little bit.
Look at King David in the Bible.
I've done a bunch.
Right? Look at King David, right? Dude, you want to talk about sex addiction? King David, right? But
what chapter is that?
I don't even know, but there's. I think that there's so many parallels in the Bible that have to do with recovery.
Yeah.
You talk about like the thorn in the side, right? I forget who that was, Paul maybe. The thorn in his side, right? Like God took everything from him, but yet he had this thorn in his side, but yet he still praised God, and he still drew closer to God, right? I view my addiction as that thorn in my side.
Okay.
Right? It's always going to be there.
Sure.
My addiction, you will never hear me say that I am a recovered addict. Because I'm going to stop seeking. I need to stay seeking.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree
so, like,
with that,
my
100%.
addiction is my thorn in my side, right? God put it there for a reason.
Sure.
And God is using me through this. So, like, all right, I believe that, and I buy into that.
Do you guys do the Serenity Prayer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
that's
man.
what we closed the sermon out on Sunday with it, because we were talking about disappointment, and disappointment is us trying to control the expectations, but other people's how they act.
Yeah.
And so it was a really appropriate fucking prayer for.
A lot of sponsors will use, like my very first sponsor, like we read out of the AA Big Book.
Okay.
Just, hey, replace the drink with sex.
Sure.
So like we really, it's what AA paved the way.
Yeah.
You know, we're forever grateful. Even if I don't work that program, I'm grateful for AA because it paved the way for me
Jacob talks
in my own 12 steps.
Jacob's NA.
Yeah.
Well, AA led the way for NA.
Right.
And NA came along and made it better. But,
Oh, shots fired. There's an Instagram.
don't clip that one. You know?
It's gonna be that'll be a reel.
There's
We'll post that one.
Jacob, what are the NA promises?
They only got one.
Yeah.
No addict that follows his way needs to suffer. I don't know. Can't quote it, but
There's I don't know if it's a whole
one good
account on
promise.
Instagram, but
That's a good promise. That is a
there's
good-
like the difference between an AA or an NA, and it's pretty funny. So there's definitely the stereotypes out there.
You know, it's
the
funny.
best one I've ever seen is the difference between AA and NA is AA has a car but no driver's license. NA has a driver's license but no car.
You know, it's
That's perfect. That's fucking perfect.
You know, I went to some NA meetings and I had this really interesting experience at an NA meeting once. I remember I was there. I was like, I don't know, 6 months, 7 months into my recovery, and I shared I was dealing with some grief around the ex-girlfriend, and after the meeting, this guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I heard you, man, and all you need to do is just cut your hair and get on Tinder, man, and you'll be swimming in pussy in no time." And I was like, "Thanks, man. Appreciate that."
That's not right.
Thank you.
Why do you have to talk shit about your hair?
Right. I think it looks
That's what I got
good,
on
man.
it.
Dang.
Get the Jesus look going.
Yeah, man. Right. See, I got the flow, man.
He
It goes,
said
with
that-
it goes with the hockey, dude.
You
The
fucking
flow,
said that
man.
to
It's a
you.
lifestyle.
Get the lettuce, baby.
You know? Oh, this is flow.
Okay.
Flow's a lifestyle, dude.
Yeah,
Lettuce
I'm
is
fucking
trying.
jealous.
Lettuce is trying. Flow's a lifestyle.
I got it. I like that.
I guess that's probably too long to do a legit man bun, right? You need a little.
Oh, no. I can do a legit. man
Okay,
bun.
all right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I had a guy call it a bitch biscuit once.
Nice.
that's what it is.
I still rock it, though, and I look good. So,
Hey, you know what? Good for you.
You
Does
know?
Fulmer still have a man bun?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time. Good guy.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. This
Yeah,
is
man.
huge.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And on short notice, this is awesome. So before we go, real quick, what's the name of your podcast again?
No lions here. So it's like the lion. No, like the king of the jungle.
Got it,
No
okay.
lions here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me about the name.
So the name actually came from treatment. So I go by Big Panda on the show, right? Because when I started the show, I wanted to be anonymous.
Sure.
Now I do video episodes, and my face and name's all out there.
I was just getting ready to say, well, fuck.
Yeah.
I started. No,
Right.
it's quite all right. Like I've been doing video episodes for over a year now.
How's it going?
Dude, it's you know,
That's awesome.
It's really good for me, right? As somebody whose core need is to be heard, going out and starting a podcast is very ironic.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do a podcast. I just didn't know what to do one on.
This has been just speaking podcaster to podcaster, this has been, especially in a season of I call it stress. You say that's a bullshit emotion, so we'll unpack that off air. But 2 years of it, and this has been so fucking life-giving just to be able to chat about this shit, talk to people, hear stories like yours, Alex. And I hear you saying that about yours. It's just a life-giving. And we always say if it helps one person, it's worth it. We know it's helping more than that. We do know that. And it's helping us. Fuck.
Like bottom line
Self-serving a little bit, I guess.
it helps selfishly. It helps me, right?
Yeah.
Like it helps me going in and being able to talk about what I'm dealing with. Man, it just helps me a lot. But the name No Lions Here came from. So I remember one day we were in treatment and it was all focused on the emotions, right? And because I wasn't taught about my emotions, my brain perceives my emotions as physical threats on my life. So, of course, I want to numb, I want to run, I want to escape, right? I want to go into that fight or flight mode. And so at one point in time in one of our groups, the therapist said, guys, there's no lions here. There's no physical threats on your life.
Okay.
So
I
I
like
said,
that.
all right, I like
with
that
you.
idea.
Yeah.
And then I go by Big Panda. I introduced myself as Big Panda. And that also came from treatment. Last day of treatment, we're kind of all sitting around with a therapist, and they're like, so they're telling everybody. And at one point in time, so we had a really good therapist. His name was Matt Wanger. He's been on the show a couple times. Awesome therapist. One of the best therapists I've ever met.
Cool.
And he would like pick on somebody would sit in the same seat, and he would just pick at them in group therapy. Just really. And I wanted him to pick at me. And I was really upset and sad that he did not pick on me at all. And I told my therapist, and this was back before, I knew that in treatment centers, everybody talks about the clients. Right. In clinical, we all talk about the clients. I didn't know that, right? So my therapist went and told Matt Wanger that I was upset that he never picked on me. So when it came to my time, he said, Alex, I know you were a little upset that I didn't pick on you. He said, Alex, I didn't have to. You showed up every single day ready to work.
Wow.
He was like, you're like a big panda rolling down a hill. Everybody should see you. I wish I had one of you in every single cohort. And I was like, all right.
Big panda it is.
Big panda, man. Big panda.
Do you have a goalie mask with the fucking sick paint job on it?
No, but I need one. I need
Yeah.
one, man.
That's a mission,
love
man.
that, man.
Yeah.
That's hockey's so expensive, Jesus.
I know, but that's
So
something you
expensive.
need.
I do
You need it
that,
for a
yeah.
shelf or something.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah.
So No Lions here on
No
all
Lions Here.
Spotify, Apple, wherever
Spotify.
we're at, YouTube.
YouTube, Instagram, iTunes.
So do us a favor, go like it, follow it, subscribe it. It helps. That's what they say. It helps pump it up so more people can hear it, more people can find it. And I do promise you, I know his is helping tons of fucking people, thousands of people, more. Ours is helping 3 or 4. But but those clicking those buttons for 2 seconds, if you appreciate it, what we're doing, if you know somebody that's struggling, it does help this algorithm shit that not Elon, the Zuckerberg or whoever these motherfuckers are that know more about it than we do. But it helps pump it up and get it more out there. So that's how you can help. If anybody wants to know how they can help, that's how they can help. No Lions here. Check it out. Alex, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Jacob says I have trouble landing the plane, so I'm trying to land the plane, but I do got to ask you, though, is there anything that we're missing, anything you want to share? Love to have you back.
No, man. I mean, look, when I leave here and I'm in the car driving home, I'm going to come up with things. Man, I should have said this. I should have said that. But, hey, I'm
Sure,
not going to live
happens all
there
the time.
now. There's nothing off the top of my head. So
You got it for
you
your
know,
next episode.
I'll let you know, though, hey, like if there's anybody that's struggling, right, reach out.
Can they? How do they reach
Reach out. So I can be reached at nolionshere@gmail.com.
Perfect.
That is my email that is associated with the podcast. I get my notifications for that email. The other emails that I have, I don't check them. So, but
Because your IRC emails.
actually, I actually need to talk to you about that tomorrow. I'm having issues getting into my Outlook.
You should have realized that.
I realized it over the weekend, and then I forgot about it. But yeah, nolionshere@gmail.com. You know, if you're having issues or want any resources, please reach out. And again, like whatever you're dealing with, there's somebody out there that's dealt with it. There's somebody that's out there that's dealt with it. You are not alone. You don't have to sit in the shame alone. Like there's people out there. Like it's hard work, right? Recovery's hard work. However, it is the most rewarding and fulfilling work that I've ever done. I still got problems. But you know what? I got a solution today, and stay connected, man. Connection is the opposite of addiction. So
That's it right there.
that's it.
Amen. Let us pray.
If you're struggling or know someone that is, please have them check out our podcast and reach out to Chris or me. We want to listen, and we're super eager to help. Our music is Anti-Hero by McCall and Gentle Waters by Wild Wonder. For more information, visit PONDOFF'Sanonymous.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram.